still letting some people in. Mr. Perillo, are you there? Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Perillo? Should we check your audio?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Frank, are you ready, Frank?
Ready when you are.
All right. You're all set, Frank.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Township of Hillsborough Board of Adjustment public meeting for Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. Please join me for this salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
And
one
one nation, under God,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
This meeting will be conducted virtually. All board members, consultants, and staff will be participating remotely. The public will be given an opportunity to participate remotely through the advertised Zoom link or optional phone numbers identified in the public meeting notice. The public should use the raise hand feature in Zoom or the *9 if participating by telephone to indicate that you would like to be recognized to speak. Application documents are made available for inspection at the township website at least 10 calendar days prior to the scheduled meeting date in accordance with the meeting notice. Applicants and their professionals will be participating remotely and will identify themselves before testifying. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2021 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, the township clerk, posted on the bulletin board at the township municipal complex, and posted on the township's website. Additional notice has been provided to communicate this meeting is being conducted according to the governor's executive orders and pursuant to Public Law 2020 C.11, which allows for meetings to be conducted electronically and pursuant to the local finance notices recently published in the state of New Jersey. Tina, would you call the roll for members of professionals, please?
Yes, Mr. Stamler, absent. Mr. Sirachi, absent. Mr. Venture, absent. Ms. Salili,
Here.
Mr. Valchek,
here.
Mr. Woolmacher,
Here.
Ms. Comfer,
Here.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Chairman Herbert,
Here.
Mr. Maskey,
Here,
Mr. Anderson,
I'm here.
Mr. DeSessa,
Here.
Fred is here, and I am here. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, first point of business, Board of Adjustment business. We need to appoint a new acting board secretary. So Patrick left the township. Nominations, please.
Nominate David Coy. I think that's appropriate.
yes, Mr. Chairman, David, as most of you know, will be acting as the interim zoning officer until we replace Patrick. So David would be more than happy to serve as your interim secretary.
Right, do we hear a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Ms. Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Woolmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes. The
Okay,
second thing, I think we all received an email from the township clerk asking for volunteers for the June 26th Fun Day at Orton Road School, celebrating the 250th anniversary of Hillsborough. So I'm talking about setting up a common table for the land use boards, the planning board, and the Board of Adjustment. So keep that in mind, and we'll discuss that further at the June 16th meeting. Okay. Next is consideration of meeting minutes. We've got a number of them tonight. The first one is January 2nd, January 20th, 2021, the reorganization meeting. Any board discussion on that? If not, motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is January 2021, the regular meeting. Any discussion? Motion then,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is February 3rd, 2021. Any board discussion on that one? If not, a motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is March 3rd, 2021. Any board discussion?
Mark, or Frank, I have a modification or clarification I'd like on the second page under New Center LLC, number 11. I would like to add the wording at the beginning that the applicant's engineer erroneously testified, and then the county did not require or request the dedication of the right of way because there was the confusion after the meeting, as we found out. So I'd like that clarification added at the beginning of number 11.
Okay, any exact wording of that would be?
The applicant's engineer erroneously testified, and then the rest of it.
Okay. Okay, so any other comments, additions, changes? If not, the motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Next is March 17th, 2021. Any board discussion on that one? If not, motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is April 7th, 2021. Board discussion. None. Motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second, and I'd just like to comment that that is Mrs. Kane's first attempt at minutes, and it ran to, I think, a record of 90 items on it.
You did a very good job, though, I gotta say. I mean, that was a very long meeting, so
Yes, it was.
probably she stopped at 90.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion for that one,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, May 5th, 2021. Any board discussion on that one? If not, a motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, next is consideration of resolutions. We have two tonight. The first one is New Center LLC, file BA 20-11. Discussion on that one.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I was just going to add before that motion that I saw we got a letter dated just today from the county, a letter of compliance on that. So that was filed with the board today. Okay, motion was to approve.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Any seconds?
Second.
Roll call, Tina. And who can vote on that one, Tina?
Salili, Valchek, Walmacher, Comfer, Haynes, and Herbert.
Okay,
Okay, Ms. Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
yes. Next is Nicholas and Deborah Petrock, file BA 21-05. Board discussion on that. If none, motion,
Motion to approve.
second.
Second.
Okay. Tina, who can vote on that one?
Salili, Valchek, Walmacher, Haynes, and Herbert.
Yes, Sam. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes.
Okay,
Next, we have business from the floor. This is for Matt, is not on the agenda tonight, so I'll ask Fred to open up the line for anybody in the public that wants to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, anybody on the line that has something that they'd like to say that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand. If you're called on, please state your name and address, spelling your last name for the record, please. I see none, Chairman. I think you can proceed.
Okay, so we have 2 public hearings tonight, 2 applications. And the first is Christopher and Amy Perillo, file BA 21-02. David, can you introduce that application, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. This is a homeowner application to add certain additions to the house, including a front porch, deck, and a pool. They are requesting a variance for a minimum lot area and for maximum impervious coverage.
Okay. Before we begin, Mark, do you have, Mark Anderson, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not actually specifically to this application, but I have been looking for an opportunity to remind people who are in the public who perhaps have not heard this before. The DCA rules for virtual meetings such as this require that anyone who is going to give testimony is required to appear not just by audio, but by video. I'm seeing what appeared to be a fairly large number of participants who are not appearing by video. So anybody who wants to give testimony, that is, anyone who wants to say anything that they want the board to consider in an application, whether they are an applicant or a supporter of an applicant, an opponent of an applicant, just so people have an opportunity to get their video up. People, of course, are entitled to listen without video, but if they want to give testimony, they must appear by video.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the attorney representing the applicant is Mark Wetta, so I'll turn the floor over to you, Mark.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all, even in our virtual world. I'm Mark Wetter from the firm of Radom and Wetter, and I represent the applicants, Christopher and Amy Perillo. The property that's the subject of the application is located at 225 Zion Road. I'm not sure if anyone was able to see the property, but if you didn't, if you're to turn left on Amwell Road onto Zion Road, you go up a little ways and the property is on the left. The property slopes upward to the home. It is a 3-acre lot. It's in the MZ zone, which is now a 15-acre zone. The application is to construct some additions to the home and an in-ground pool as well as a deck. It's presently a ranch home. They want to keep it a ranch home. It's approximately 1,900 square feet. The clients purchased this home in 2016. We're seeking variances as follows. It's existing 3-acre lot in a 15-acre zone. The front yard setback for the porch is at 123.75 feet, and the improved porch will be that as well. No further encroachment. The big variance is the impervious coverage. It requires 5%. We're requesting 7.5%, and there's 5.5% existing. So tonight I have 3 witnesses with me. I have Mr. and Mrs. Perillo, although I believe Christopher will testify. He'll give a very brief summation of what they're proposing. The bulk of testimony will come from Michael Ford from Van Cleef, who's our engineer/planner. And I also have, and I see him, William Doran, our architect, for any questions that may come up. So if we could have Mr. Perillo first.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, all. It's nice to see you all. My name's Chris.
Continue with the square the witness in plan.
Mr. Perillo, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you please just state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Absolutely. Christopher Perillo, P as in Peter, A as in Apple, RRILLO.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, Mark. So my name is Chris Perillo. My wife and I have occupied the property at 225 Zion Road. And tonight you'll hear from our experts about the additions and enhancements we wish to make to our home. We've been in the home for nearly 5 years and love the area. Since purchasing the home, our family has expanded and we're expecting our second child in just a couple of weeks. Our goal is to enhance the home and make it a place we can stay in for our lifetime
while maintaining the curb appeal as to not detract from the surrounding area. The additions to the home will allow us to raise our children in this great school district and community, as well as provide space for my wife and I to work from home as we continue to adjust to this new way of working. The outdoor space will provide an area for our children to learn, explore nature in a safe manner, as well as entertain our friends and family safely. Thank you.
Chris, could you give the board a brief review of the additions in terms of what you're proposing to the home?
Absolutely. So to the left of the home, we're proposing to add a master suite, which will not increase the number of bedrooms. We're actually going to remove a closet from one of the existing bedrooms and make that an office space, since my wife and I both work from home now. Off the back of the home, we're adding a new family room living area, which we'll use to entertain, and changing the front room to a dining area. Off the back, there is a deck that we are proposing with a small patio going out to the pool area. And then on the front of the home, we're proposing to expand the porch area as well.
Although Mr. Perillo will remain here, I have no further questions at this time, and we can move on to Mr. Ford unless the board has
Before we
questions.
do that, let's just ask if any board members have any questions.
I just have one. I noticed from the one photograph we have that there's a single entrance off of Zion, but then do you have a circular driveway up near the house?
That's correct, yes.
And what's the width of the driveway?
I think it varies. It does, but it's approximately 10 feet or so, I think.
Down near Zion or up
Oh,
in the circular?
I think on either side, it's about 10 feet wide. Down towards Zion, it extends a little bit. I'm not sure of the overall width down at Zion.
And that driveway was there when you purchased the house?
Yes.
Any other board member questions? If not, I'll ask Fred to open up a public.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Philomena. Mr. Perillo, I just wanted clarification. You're not increasing the number of rooms, and the family room and the living room are going to be extended or connected?
So there's off the back of the house, there's an existing kitchen, and we're adding a family room behind the kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions? If not, Fred, ask to open the line for public question.
Sure. Anybody on the line from the public have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, Chairman.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Wetter.
Okay, next witness, Michael Ford. You all know him well from Van Cleef Engineering. I assume you don't want his qualifications on the record.
No, we can accept this qualification.
Okay, Mike, could you please go?
Mike, where are you, Mike? Do
Right
you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Michael
Thank you.
Ford, F-O-R-D.
Mike, come on.
Sorry,
Come on, Mike. Cut it out.
required.
Okay, Mike, could you describe the proposed project and then get into the variances?
Okay, I'll share a screen now so we have a visual while we're speaking. Right, this is what I have shared on the screen is the variance application that was, or variance plan that was submitted as part of the application. As Mr. Wetter described as part of the introduction of the application, the property fronts on Zion Road. It's on the left side or the east side of Zion Road as you head up the mountain from Amwell Road, and we're actually directly across the Zion Road from Castle Hill Lane, which is a small residential road.
Mr. Ford, sorry to interrupt. It's Fred Kinsler. Maybe if you could zoom in a little bit, it might be easier for the people to see. It's a little small.
You got it.
Might just help them visualize a little better.
Yeah. Let me try here. There we go.
All right, great, thank you.
That should be a little better. Okay, thank you. That's good because what you can see now is Castle Hill Lane, which is about opposite the access driveway to the site. As was just discussed, there's a U-shaped driveway. We're on Zion Road, which everybody knows, doesn't permit parking. And access, is important for a safety concerns on Zion Road as it twists and turns and has a strong slope. That is, it's a steep road. As Mr. Whiter also indicated, the house sits up from Zion Road. The difference in elevation from our driveway entrance at Zion Road and the house itself is over 20 feet. So it sits up on a hill overlooking Zion Road. There's existing parking, existing garage. None of that is changing. And there's an existing front yard setback of 123.75 feet to this point on the garage. And the addition to the front of the house, the porch, to enhance the front appearance of the house, provide a more attractive entrance to the house, is at about that same setback. Which is less than the 150 feet required. So it's a technical deviation, but we're not exacerbating the existing condition. The existing condition setback really remains unchanged. The other additions that were described as a master bedroom addition on the north or top of the page end of the existing ranch dwelling, and at the rear is the family room addition, and immediately adjacent to that is a deck, which leads to a patio and the pool. There's a patio surrounding the pool. That's all to the rear of the house. The lot, as was stated, is less than the 15 acres required. That is, it's 3 acres. So it's substantially under the required minimum lot area, but that's not being changed or created about this application. But really, the only bulk standard that's being changed as part of the application is the impervious coverage, which is limited to 5% in the MR zone, the mountain zone. We're at 5.5 today, and we suspect that is perhaps due to changes in the zoning over time. The applicants didn't make any changes to the dwelling since they purchased it. So that's an existing non-conforming condition, and the proposed condition is to result in an increase in impervious coverage to a total of 7.5%. As we've already described, the house is an existing ranch house. The additions are have been developed to blend and complement the existing, not only the ranch house, but the floor layout within the house. That is, as everybody I'm sure understands, and the applicant's architect who's on the Zoom meeting this evening can answer questions in this regard if there's additional detail required, but the floor layout was considered in the placement of the additions. That is, the master bedroom addition off the end of the house and the family room addition to the rear of the house off of those areas of the house where those existing living spaces makes sense to have such an addition. So the house additions are going to enhance and complement the view. What view you do see, albeit from Zion Road looking up the hill, and then the additions to the back, we really only have one neighbor to our south, which is, a single family dwelling. And this ranch house is not unlike other houses in the neighborhood. That is, there's another ranch house not immediately adjacent to us, but one lot further to the south or up Zion Road. So it kind of complements and blends not only to the existing conditions of this house, but to the neighborhood itself. then often we're concerned about drainage and potential impacts to neighbors or adjoining property owners due to the increase in impervious coverage. In this case, it's 2.5% over the max allowable. But as I've already described, the house sits up on a hill. The slope drains down towards Zion Road, and those existing drainage patterns will be maintained as part of this application. We're not changing those, and all our drainage is directed towards Zion Road, not to any adjoining property. And there is existing drainage structures in Zion Road. There's a catch basin out in front of the property, and there are, I think you've seen, if you've been up and down Zion Road, some pretty significant drainage features to collect and manage runoff along the road. There is, from an environmental standpoint, no wetlands identified on the property, no wetlands being impacted by the application and the disturbance. I'm circling now the limits of disturbance now, which is just off the ends of the house and primarily focused at the rear of the house. It's just over 12 or just under 12,000 square feet, or about 0.3 acres of disturbance. So it's really a minimal amount of disturbance. But that being said, we've already made application and actually have indeed secured approval from the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District of a soil erosion and sediment control plan. And that approval is dated May 11th, 2021. While I'm discussing outside agencies, we also were provided today a response to our application to the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission. It was dated May 10th, 2021, and we can provide a copy to the township for their records. But in that DNR Canal Commission report, they indicate that the application as proposed is exempt from their requirements. It doesn't amount to a project that would require their review. And in fact, in discussing the application with the township professionals, it's been recognized that it's a minor application from the standpoint of stormwater management and really doesn't warrant stormwater mitigation due to its minimal impacts or increase in impervious coverage and the lack of any impact on any adjoining neighbors. While I'm talking about environmental issues, we did make a trip to the Environmental Commission of the township, and they issued a report on March 25th, 2021, after our visit there, identifying that or recognizing that the property is undersized in the zone, suggesting that we go and make application to the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission and the Soil Conservation District, which I just stated the applicant indeed did carry out those applications and has secured either an exemption or approval. There is one tree at the rear of the property or behind the house that would be impacted, but other than that one tree, no other wooded areas would be impacted by the application. And while we were at the Environmental Commission, they asked us to expand our project plan and mapping to identify the watercourse, which is on the west side of Zion Road, and I'm highlighting that now. There's a pretty well-defined drainage course running down alongside Zion Road. You can see where it crosses Castle Hill Lane here. And that watercourse carries with it a required Hillsborough Township stream corridor setback, and I'm highlighting that, which is 150 feet. None of the activities that we're proposing are within that 150-foot Hillsborough Township stream corridor. And then there was a suggestion to consider if indeed the board thought that there was a need for any kind of stormwater management mitigation, either a rain garden or a dry well. And what I'll say with response to that suggestion, in addition to what I've already said about the safely directing stormwater runoff from the proposed activities in a manner that emulates the existing drainage patterns, and that is to direct runoff directly toward Zion Road and not to any neighbors. What I'd also say is that any kind of stormwater management facility that would require some kind of infiltration or permeability may be not the most suitable proposal in this area of the township, where on the mountain, my experience has been that the soils are often carry with them high groundwater table, low permeability. So the site soils would likely not be well suited for that type of mitigation. With regards,
You're saying a rain garden wouldn't work then, or?
well, we haven't done site-specific soil testing for a rain garden, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't work. It may be, I'll say, you can see the septic system. There's an existing septic system that was designed and installed. I think at the time the applicant purchased the property, designed by others. It's a mounded septic system, which I suspect is because of a groundwater table. So often with the rain gardens, there's this required separation between the bottom of the rain garden and the groundwater table. And with a high groundwater table, that would be, this mounded septic system is one thing, where you artificially elevate the septic system to mitigate for that groundwater table. Be difficult to do with a rain garden.
Mike, what is on this Google shot that we have, the lot, it seems to be adjacent, but there might be a little strip in between. The lot to the east, it looks like it slopes down, and then is that water, or what is that on this Google map that we received?
Okay, I can share that. I think this is on the, is this what you're looking
colored,
at?
There was enough baggage with the three other pictures.
yeah.
Right over here.
Is that to the east?
Yes.
Okay. Got it turned around.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mark, should these be marked as exhibits?
Yeah, there, over to the extreme right.
Yeah, we can.
If this is not part of the submission,
This is part of it.
we have a problem actually somewhat deeper than marking it. If it's part of the submission, we have not been marking things separately, Mr. Maskey. If it is not submitted in advance, then the DCA rules say that we shouldn't be considering it.
Well, this is one of the four pictures that was given the four pictures, and this is the bottom one that.
So is that what you want to look at?
Yeah, I have it.
It avoids the problems,
I have it. I just have not personally confirmed whether it's on Civic Clerk.
It was,
Here, I can.
this is Fred
It's on
Kinzer,
Civic
IT.
Clerk.
This was sent to me by DeBoris. I believe it is on Civic Clerk, Mr. Maskey. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
Okay, then as long as it's on Civic Clerk, as I say, we have not been marking things separately. Obviously, it's somewhat cumbersome to do it in a remote meeting.
Yeah, this is on Civic Clerk, and so is that other exhibit. I'm not sure. Is this the Google?
No, well, you had it on before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you had it on before, and it on the.
There you go. This is a pond on our neighbor's property to the east of us. That's my understanding, and that would be upslope of us.
Is that a residential lot?
I believe there's, I'm sorry, I believe there's a nursery property that comes off the Zion. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct.
Just before you get to this house coming from the south, isn't it? I think you can sort of see the driveway towards the.
Right there.
On the map. Yeah, and then.
Yeah, but is that a residential or a business?
Business.
Yeah, okay.
If you zoomed out on an aerial, you'll see a fair amount of trucks parked back there.
Right, yeah, and I believe that was, Mark, didn't we have a case quite a few years ago that involved that property? But anyway, I suppose that's beside the point.
I certainly recall one. I can't say that I could identify that it was this property, but it looks like the one.
Okay, I mean, is there any concerns about being next to a business involves a lot of trucking and that pond or whatever it is in the back there to Mike Ford, I guess?
From an engineering standpoint, I don't think we have a good buffer, I'll say today, with existing vegetation along our south and easterly boundaries. You know, while the 3 acres is not in conformance with the 15-acre minimum lot size, 3 acres is a substantial area. And the applicants already, as part of their presentation, expressed their desire after living there for some 5 years to do these enhancements and improvements so they could live there for many
Right.
years to come.
Okay, as
So-
long as they've explored the situation next door. Okay, one other question, and I can't quite tell, what is the width around the pool? I guess that's pavers or something, I'm not quite sure. But
Yeah,
what
that
is
would be an impervious surface and it's about 10 feet wide.
Okay, do you need 10 feet all the way around? We've talked with other applicants where they have an impervious problem. And you know, sometimes it's helpful if they can narrow that at least on 3 of the sides.
Yes, Mr. Wetter and I have had this discussion with the applicant, and while they would prefer it as proposed, they would consider and be willing to make a reduction if the board were, you know, so inclined to desire that, and you know, it would hopefully lead to the successful outcome of the application.
Yeah, I think every effort should be made to you know, request the minimum necessary to, you know, enjoy what they're proposing. You know, take it down to 3 or 4 feet. You're not going to be putting patio chairs or chairs around all 4 sides of a pool normally. So what could be, how could that be reduced?
We spoke with the applicant, and one of the thoughts they had was to eliminate the entire, you know, 10 feet on the back side of the pool and keep it on the other 3 sides. Perhaps the same reduction could be accomplished with, you know, maintaining a walkway around all 4 sides, but reducing the width of it like you've suggested. And if we were to get to a point where we reduce it by about, about 600 square feet, that would bring us down close to, you know, instead of 7.5% impervious coverage, just above 7, or about 7.1%. So almost a 0.5% less than what's being proposed.
Well,
Okay,
what would,
I'm sorry.
I just misunderstood. What would be the change that would bring it down?
The reduction in the width of the surround, the impervious area around the pool itself.
And what's the reduction to? Is it all 4 sides, or is it just one end, or?
Well, the applicant had discussed the possibility of eliminating on 1 of the 3 sides, and that would reduce it by about 600 square feet, or, and I know you like exact numbers. It would reduce it by 0.46%. So down to 7.04%.
You know, I
That's
think the
600 square
concern
feet.
largely up there in the mountain, as you know, is the impervious, you know, the drainage and everything. So considering that this is, you know, a undersized lot, although at one point it certainly was not, that I think that would be a nice compromise, you know, without really, you know, withholding their enjoyment of their property.
But, you know, my question is that the percentage is so minimal, what in essence would it accomplish?
No,
Other
what
than
they've got
bringing
now
it-
is
bringing it-
5.7.
I mean, it's such a small percentage. I don't know, I'm struggling with it because the percentage is so small. What kind
No,
of an
they're right
impact
now,
would it-
they're right now at 5.7, I think, right?
Correct.
5.5.
5.5.
5.5 to 7.5 is what it's at right now. And Mike, can you read that impervious number with the reduction of whatever that small percentage was?
We would go from 7.5% to 7.04%. So it sounds like a de minimis change, but it really takes our overage from, 2.5% to about 2.04%. So it's a fifth of the total
Yeah,
impervious coverage goes away.
It's a 20% reduction, Phil, so
Right.
it's significant.
Okay, I don't have anything else to say.
So in summary, I'd like to just say that, we think that the bulk variance for the impervious coverage as well as the other two nonconformities are supported by the unique conditions at this site, the slope, the existing house and driveway orientation, even considering the solar aspects of, an outdoor recreation space, which we all have learned over the last year plus that home environments have, taken on a new level, both for their importance for outdoor recreation as well as for the home live work environment that Mr. Perillo described in his statements. And we don't believe that, as we've described, there's really any substantial detriment to the public good or impact to the zone plan of the town. And we've addressed one of the most significant elements of that in our testimony and description with regards to drainage. So I would ask and suggest that the board grant approval of this application.
More questions from board members? If not, Fred, can you open up the line for public question?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question if it's appropriate at this time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ford, I want to refer back for a moment to your testimony about the report of the Hillsborough Township Environmental Commission. If I recall your words, you said that the commission had suggested that a rain garden be considered. But I believe that the actual words of the commission were that the commission requests that the applicant install a rain garden. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And indeed, the commission also made a particular request for a rain garden that can manage 1.5 inches of rain from the excess impervious coverage.
That's correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And before I hand it over to public questions, and Drew, I was looking at your report. Have all your questions been answered?
Yes. I'd asked the applicant to explain the drainage, which Mr. Ford has done. I agree with his assessment. It is a very small increase in impervious, and given the surrounding land uses and the drainage patterns there, I don't see a problem with the drainage on the site, but given the small increase.
Okay. And I might also add, the applicant is going to, the conditions that they will fill a pool from truck and water. I would add on to that if this ever has to be refilled again, it'd be with truck and water. Not that they drain their well in the future.
Yes.
No question. So, Fred, will you open for public questions as witness?
Sure. Anyone from the public have any questions for this witness on this application? Raise your hand. If you do, you'll need to start your video as Mr. Anderson has stated prior. I see none, Mr. Chairman, so I think we can proceed.
Okay, hands back to Mr. Wetter then.
Yes, I have my architect, William Doran. If the board has any questions for him, I think we've covered a lot of the things he probably would testify to, but we have him available and we can have him qualified if in fact you want to hear anything from him. I don't have any specific questions for him.
Board members have questions for the architect? I don't see any. No, okay. Mr. White?
Okay, so just to, I guess, conclude, I'm going to look to Mr. Anderson. Do we move these exhibits into evidence, or since they're on Civic Clerk, they're already there?
The board has, since meetings have been remote, considered those things that are posted on Civic Clerk already marked.
Okay. So I just want to make a couple concluding comments. I think the property is well suited in many different ways for the proposed improvements. Again, I don't know if it was stated, when it's completed, the home will be approximately 2,300 square feet, and which fits in well with the neighborhood. It clearly will enhance the appearance. It allows the owners to stay and utilize the home with their family, as we've all said, especially in this new standard that we're all used to in the last 15, 16 months. And with that, I want to thank the board for their time, and I hope that they grant our approval.
Thank you. At this point, motion to close public.
Frank, do we want to have any comments from the public? Did we do that?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the, yeah, okay, so let's see if there's anybody out there. Fred?
Sure. Any people in the public that have any comments on this application, this is the time. Seeing none, Chairman.
Okay, motion to close public.
Motion closed.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Okay, so what discussion on this?
I'd make a motion to approve with the various conditions, including the rain garden that the Environmental Commission requires, can handle up to 1¼ inches of rain. And that the impervious would be 7.04%. And all the engineering comments, and anything else I forgot.
I guess one of them that the pool has to be refilled. It'll be done by truck and water.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I assume that by that, Mr. Chairman, you mean original fill and any refill?
Yes, they reached the original fill already. So I just thinking in the future if they have to replace
Yes,
it.
they did. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just ask one question? Are you saying that, I thought Mike's testimony was that a rain garden would not be needed in his opinion. I thought your engineer said that as well. Are you now requiring that the rain garden be installed?
That is the motion, Mr. Wetter.
Okay.
Yeah, the language, the reason I'm including that is the language from the Environmental Commission says that it should be done. So I'm including that in my motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to add, I'm sympathetic to folks who have pre-existing undersized lots in, I also live in the mountain zone. I'm on a lot of acres. If I covered the 5% that I was allowed to, it would do so much more damage than, you know, what is being proposed here. And it's a little frustrating sometimes that the ordinance doesn't deal with these sort of pre-existing lots very well. I would have approved it as is, but I'm happy with the motion.
Thank you.
And just one clarification. Does the motion include reducing the impervious to the 7.04 that Mike referred
Yes.
to?
That was part of the motion. Yes.
My question is that it includes the impervious coverage. Does the applicant agree to do the garden?
I would, as you know,
Well, we can't.
At this point, this is for board discussion. I think the board can draw whatever conclusion from the testimony about the applicant's position, but the motion, which I understand is based on the Environmental Commission report, is that it be included.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay, so any more discussion? If not, Tina, make a roll call, please.
Yes. Miss Salili,
Yes,
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Miss Comfer,
Yes.
Miss Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Okay. The next application this evening, the last application, is McDonald's USC LLC file BA 20-13. Dave Maskey, would you introduce this application, please?
Sure. Very simply, this is a total renovation and redesign of the existing McDonald's restaurant on Route 206.
That's brief. Okay, so Mark, do you have any input on this one? Before we
No, I think Mr. Maskey did a excellent and I might say exceptionally concise introduction.
In that case, Mr. Lippert, just go over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope to be as concise as Mr. Maskey tonight, but
That will be a challenge.
may take a few more minutes than that. My name is Scott Lippert. I'm a member of the firm of Pashman, Walder Hayden, and I represent McDonald's Corporation. I'm sure the board is well familiar with the location of the McDonald's restaurant at 410-412 Route 206. It's block 161, lot 13. The restaurant is located in the Gateway A district and the architectural site design overlay zone. And restaurants that serve food to people in automobiles are not a permitted use in that zone. Never, as I'm sure you're aware, this restaurant has functioned at this location for decades. You may also be aware that McDonald's has in recent years embarked on a program of upgrading its restaurants throughout the country and all over New Jersey. You may have seen some of them. They're engaged in upgrading the facilities, in rebranding, in having a more modern, fresh look, and also importantly in improving the drive-through facilities. Now, this program started some years ago before the pandemic, and I think it's become self-evident to all of us that the importance of some of these locations during the pandemic couldn't be underestimated. So we're going to be upgrading the drive-through facilities, and you'll hear a lot of testimony about that. There'll be an addition to the existing building, and with that, I'd like to introduce our engineer, Mr. Alex Lomé.
Mr. Lemay, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Alex Lomé, A-L-E-X. Last name Lomé, L-O-M as in Mary, E-I.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just for references in terms of...
Hold on. We got to qualify you, Alex. Hold on. So why don't you give the board the benefit of your professional credentials, starting with where you work, where you went to school, and what your licensing is.
Sure. I was about to jump into that. I graduated with a bachelor's in science and civil engineering from the University of Delaware in 2010. I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey since 2016. I'm currently a project manager with Polar Engineering for the last 9 years, with our office located at 30 Independence Boulevard, Suite 200 in Warren, New Jersey.
And you've testified before other land use boards in New Jersey?
I have.
And your credentials as a professional engineer have been accepted?
Yes.
Okay, we can accept your qualifications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mr. Lomé, why don't we start with just an overview of the existing conditions, beginning with the location and the neighboring uses, and you can take it from there.
Excuse
Sure.
me, Mr. Lippert. This is Fred Kinsler, IT. Mr. LeMay, are you going to need to share your screen? And would that be helpful?
Yeah, I'm actually about to do that right now.
Okay, hold on. Let me give you permission to do so.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you should be. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. Just bringing up the aerial exhibit that was submitted with the application, I think about a month ago at this point. This is our aerial exhibit. It is dated April 20th of 2021, prepared by Bowler Engineering. Just to quickly go through some of the existing conditions for the site, as Mr. Lippert had stated, it's block 161, lot 13, located at 410 US Highway, Route 206 South. Route 206 is along the frontage of the site to the southeast. There's a gas station to the southwest, commercial uses to the northeast, with residential to the north along the rear of the property. We are situated in the Gateway A district and in the architectural site design overlay zone. And as Mr. Lippert had already stated, while the restaurant is a permitted use, the serving of food and drink directly to patrons in their motor vehicles is not permitted. The existing building on site is 4,354 square feet, which will
Mr.
have.
LeMay,
Yes.
you need to slow down. If you're reading from something, usually people tend to read very fast. And I'm not as young as I used to be, so just slow down.
No
Okay.
problem. I appreciate that. I tend to talk too fast when I'm nervous as well, so I will make sure to
I
slow it down.
understand that. That's why I try to make it a joke. So
It's no problem. I appreciate that.
You were mentioning the square feet or whatever.
Yes, the existing building is 4,354 square feet, and it is to have interior and exterior renovations. The existing seating for the building is 76 seats, and I'll get into this more in the proposed conditions, but the proposed condition will have 64 seats, a reduction of 12 seats for the building. The current access for the site has separate ingress and egress driveways from Route 206. Circulation for the site is currently one way around the building in a counterclockwise motion. The current drive-through for the site is a single lane, single order point layout with one menu board, and it also has one pre-browse menu board. There's currently 61 parking spaces for the site, and the hours of operation are every day from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. So with that, I will bring up my next exhibit, which is a colorized version of the site plan.
While you're doing that, Mr. LeMay, so the lot size is 1.58 acres, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Is that a conforming lot size?
Yeah, the lot area is an existing non-conformance. The permitted lot area is 2 acres.
So that's one of the existing non-conforming conditions that we're going to ask for a variance relief from, correct?
Correct. Okay, so just to make sure everyone can see the colorized site plan on the screen. Very good.
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Just to kind of go through the proposed conditions, and there's a decent amount of proposed conditions here, so bear with me as I go through this. We will be maintaining the current curb cuts for the site ingress and egress driveways from Route 206 to the south. And just for reference, north is generally to the top of the page for this exhibit. The width of the curb cuts requires variance relief as they're 25 feet wide in the existing condition, and they will remain 25 feet wide in the proposed condition. The requirement is 12 feet as a maximum for one-way ingress and egress curb cuts. We're generally going to be maintaining the current site circulation, which is counterclockwise around the building. Obviously, we will be reconfiguring the parking to the west of the building on the plan left side to provide a better kind of parking layout and to allow for circulation between the two, the various parking. There's currently, in the existing condition, there's an asphalt area that's somewhat disconnected from the site, from the rest of the site, that we will be replacing in order to, propose a more, a better flowing parking layout to the west of the building. Other improvements for the site it will include ADA upgrades for parking along the front of the building. Obviously, the drive-through upgrades as well as proposed asphalt parking throughout the entire site. We're also proposing a sidewalk to connect to the existing sidewalk within the right-of-way. The drive-through facility is being improved to a dual-lane configuration. The new drive-through equipment will include a gateway clearance bar, 2 digital menu boards, 2 pre-browse menu boards, and an order here, customer ordered display with a canopy for each lane. There's also a bypass lane around the drive-through lanes to allow for customers to circulate to the parking areas if they are not going to be utilizing the drive-through.
So Mr. Lemay, if I'm a customer and I pull in and I want to use the drive-through, how does that work? Share the experience.
Sure. The drive-through operations for a customer, you enter into the drive-through, and if someone's ordering and you're waiting behind them, you have the pre-browse menu board to kind of get a sneak peek at some menu items. It's kind of a limited menu. It's a smaller sign, just to get an idea for what you think you might order. Once you pull up to the order point, if you are thinking about your order, you're not sure yet. The great thing about the side-by-side and the dual lane configuration is that the employee inside the building has cameras set up to see the cars in the drive-through and who's at which menu board. And if someone's not ready, they can switch to the other menu board and take that person's order in order to kind of keep the flow of the queue moving and keep processing orders as efficiently as possible. So this kind of allows for the orders to kind of always be processed. The orders are assigned to, by car and by license plate so that they don't, have an error inside the building and give someone the wrong order. Just from a stacking perspective, the drive-through stacking from the pickup window, which is on the west side of the building. So that would be the full queue of cars sitting in the drive-through along the building in the windows and to the order points, allows for 13 cars. I know that in the report that we received from the engineer and the planner, they reference 4 stacking spaces from the pre-browse menu boards. And just in terms of discussion, the pre-browse menu board is not where ordering takes place. The ordering takes place at the primary menu board. So including the cars ordering at the primary menu boards is there's space for six cars to be stacked there. And there is room for 1 additional car, outside of the drive-through before it's, parked in front or queuing in front of the ADA spaces at the front of the site. There's room for 1 more car kind of sitting outside that primary lane.
Can I interrupt a minute and ask how many more cars can be on the site under this plan than currently? Because right now, if you go up there 11 o'clock, noon, cars are stacked on the highway. So how many more cars can be accommodated actually on this site? Under the new plan.
Yeah. Given the location of the menu board and the existing condition, I believe, if you're talking about car stacking, let's say to the property line, I believe from the order point, it's probably about 6. And in the proposed condition from the order points, you would probably be looking at 8 to the property line.
Okay, so quite a few more cars can actually be on site and not out on the highway.
Yes, and the beauty of the side-by-side and the upgrade from the single order point is that McDonald's has seen there's an efficiency increase of about 100%, so double in terms of how quickly they can process the orders from the current layout. So it's a big positive for McDonald's. It's a big positive for kind of the queuing to be able to process those cars and those orders through the drive-through faster.
So for example, if there were a car that had a very large order or were taking a long time to put in its order, the whole business wouldn't shut down in this case, whereas that's what could happen now, right?
Correct. And to that, Mr. Lippert, if there is a large order and it does take a little bit longer to prepare in the kitchen, let's say, we We do propose 2 additional pull forward spaces just beyond the exit of the drive-through towards the front of the site on the south side of the building. So if there's any sort of a delay or any sort of issue, or there's a large order, the cars in the drive-through can pull forward and park in those spots for an employee to deliver their food to their car.
And as long as you're pointing that out, there was some comment about that in the professional reports about the location of those spaces. And can you tell us why you think that the design is appropriate in terms of where they're located?
Sure. In terms of the location, McDonald's experience is that the pull forward spaces close to the exit of the drive-through in this situation is ideal. This way the cars don't have to circulate into the parking lot, prevents employees from having to cross in front of the drive-through, and they really do have a direct line of access close to the building that they can come from the building, from the kitchen out to the car to deliver the food quickly. This way those cars do not really stay parked in those pull forward spaces for very long when they are being used.
And the employee bringing out the food doesn't have to navigate around a large area of the parking lot also, right?
Correct.
While they're carrying food.
Correct. And you did reference it, Mr. Lippert, there. Yeah, there's a requirement that no parking be between the front of the building and the street in the front. So that is a variance relief that we are requesting for this, and that would be relative to the ADA parking in the front as well as the pull forward spaces. And just since we're discussing it, the thought with the ADA spaces is to kind of try to provide those spots as close to the building as possible and as close to the front door as possible, just based on the ADA guidelines. So just to touch on that, since we were discussing it.
Thank you.
Mr. Lomé, if I may jump in, because
yes,
we're on this point, and as you noted, both Mr. DeSessa and myself brought this point up about the stacking. So while we're on it, I'd like to stay on it for a minute.
Sure.
Can you point out on the exhibit you have up on now, where's the first place a person would stop, the pre-order board?
They wouldn't stop at the pre-order board if there's no cars sitting at the main menu board and the order point, which is, sorry to say here, but if you can see my screen right here on the east side of the building,
yeah,
that would be the first spot. This
right,
or the secondary lane.
Right. And if I don't know if you have sheet C302 in your stack there or not, do you?
I can bring it up.
It's because there you actually laid out the cars and it's easier to see.
Oh yeah.
It's the signage plan actually, but you show the cars.
Yes. Let me do a new share here. Should be this plan.
There you go.
Is this it?
Yeah, you can enlarge that, please.
Yes.
A little more. Okay, that's good. So you got 3 cars stacked up there. If you had 2 more cars behind that, you're blocking the ADA lanes. And if you have 2 more cars on the other lane, you can't get to the access lane. So you are blocking. So you can't go by the pickup window. That's far away on the other side of the building.
Sure.
There is a potential to stack up so that you would block the ADA space and potentially the passing lane, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So just outside of this last car shown in I'll call it the primary lane, which is the lane closer to the building. There is space for 1 more car to be sitting here, not blocking the ADA spaces, but a second car that does sit there, and if they're waiting, they would be in front of the ADA spaces. That is correct.
All right. So to Ms. Haynes' point, on a busy lunchtime, it would not necessarily be unusual to have 2 more cars behind those 3 cars you have there. Is that reasonable to assume?
It's reasonable, but given the increase in the efficiency with the side-by-side layout of being pretty close to double from the existing single order point and single lane configuration, it wouldn't shock me that they're processing the cars pretty quickly through here, and it certainly would alleviate that issue.
And those 2 lanes would always be open, operating?
Yes.
Thank you.
So a question about that. So if I want to eat inside, if there's another car behind the last one you're showing there, I can't get to the drive around lane. Is that right? I'm stuck in a lane I don't want to be in.
It does get, I'm sorry.
It's pretty close. Yes.
It gets tight. Yes, Mr. Chairman. An option that we do have that I think we could do is this the curb line here to the east of the drive-through where the bypass lane is. There's potential we could maybe pull this out by about 2 feet. That would give you a little bit more space. So if there is an additional car for the secondary lane, which is further away from the building, stacked outside of the drive-through, I think that would open that up a little bit more, and cars would be able to go around and utilize the bypass lane.
All right, well, right. So the exit lane is, you're still proposing a left-hand turnout?
Yes.
Okay, even though in the future they may be a divided, when this is turned over to Hillsborough, I think they're going to put a median down the middle, a
landscape median, yeah.
Not a Jersey barrier, but a curved median.
With landscape, I think, is the intent.
All right, so we're shuffling back and forth between existing.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And proposed conditions, and I'm sure that's inevitable, and that always happens. But just to make sure we touch on everything else, talk about existing lighting and drainage, and then what's proposed, please.
Yeah, sure. I do want to kind of just hit on a couple of other items, sure. Scott, before I do get to that. Just to hit on the proposed building conditions. The building will have interior and exterior renovations. The actual building footprint is decreasing from 4,354 square feet to 4,173 square feet. It's a reduction of 181 square feet at the rear of the building. The existing condition, if you can see my cursor, there's a small piece of the rear of the building that is being demolished, and there's small additions being made near the pay window and the third window for pull forward. To kind of square the building off a little bit more and provide internal, to make the internal processing a little bit smoother from that perspective.
And as long as we're on this in this section, and we're reducing the number of seats, correct? And that's, would it be correct for me to say that that's based on McDonald's experience, that the number of people who use the drive-through has increased over the years substantially compared to the number of people who pull in, park, and then walk in and sit down and eat in the restaurant?
Yes, it's partially due to that. The reduction of seats is they're reducing by 12 seats. They're going from 76 seats in the existing to 64 seats in the proposed. It's a combination of optimizing the kitchen and the inside of the building and losing some spaces for dining, and that really is driven by the trend towards more drive-through use versus parking and dining in store.
And is the renovation related to that in terms of what's new about the configuration or the layout, interior?
Yeah, I mean, interior to the building, Scott, we have the project architect with us as well, Robert Goldman. I think that's a better question suited for him, and he will certainly give testimony and go through the building layout as well. So I think that's probably a better question for him to dig in on.
I have a quick question about the trend for indoor dining versus drive-through. I'm assuming that was before a year and a half ago when COVID hit.
It was. And that's been exacerbated by the COVID situation and people not being able to go in store.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I should mention that. Yes. Thank you.
My question may be premature, but
sure.
I'm going to put it out there now. In terms of the preparation of the food that needs to be readied for the increase by putting in another drive-in area in addition to those that would be coming in, is that going to have any type of a slowdown in terms of stacking of cars?
When you say another drive-in area, what
when you've got two now instead of the one?
Oh, you mean for the additional lane?
Yes.
Due to the increase in the efficiency and how much quicker they are able to process the orders, they don't see an increase in the drive-through by double, with the side-by-side configuration. There was certainly more of a use for the drive-through when they see they have two lanes and things like that. But it's I think with the increase in efficiency that you'll see an uptick in how the orders are processed and how quickly they are able to get the cars through the drive-through itself.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Will the customer still be talking to the employee with the order, or are they going to be pressing buttons this.
No, they'll still be talking to the employee inside the building on the headset.
Because I guess one problem is that you can hear these orders going back and forth from quite a distance. Is there anything going to be done to take care of that, reduce that?
I'm glad you asked. The equipment for the drive-through, and this goes for both the menu boards and the actual audio for the speaker boxes. What they do is they have an automatic function for the drive-through menu boards. They have a light sensor on them, so they automatically dim based on the ambient lighting, so that they're not extremely bright at night. And similarly for the speaker boxes and the audio, they takes in the ambient noise as well, and will adjust the volume based on the ambient noise, so it's not overly loud, say at night when it's a little quieter.
Is that being used today, or is this something new?
It's being used today on any of these new, we see these new menu boards, which they kind of look like big TVs.
I'm asking at this site, is that new technology?
No, that technology is not currently there at the site today.
Yeah, so today there's no change in the volume or the lighting based on traffic. And is it fair to say that the new equipment, especially the speaker, would mitigate the noise that exists there today?
Yes. Throughout the rest of the site, I touched on it earlier. We're proposing full asphalt replacement for the parking lots, concrete replacement for sidewalks, for the drive-through lanes, and for the ADA parking. Relative to the parking, there's existing 61 parking spaces that are being reduced to 40 parking spaces. This still exceeds the borough's requirement, the minimum requirement for 17 spaces. And I'll let our traffic engineer kind of speak more to the parking and circulation for the site. But the store operator for the McDonald's in Hillsborough tends to see the site being a destination for families and larger groups after like local events like baseball games, football games, things like that. So the excess parking over the borough's minimum requirement, we think, is still appropriate just to accommodate those larger groups when they do come after things like baseball and football games. So I know we are excess in parking, but I do think it makes sense for the site based on McDonald's experience and what they see here. They'd like to maintain the proposed 40 spaces.
And what about existing lighting?
Yep, we can jump to the lighting. The existing lighting on site are just like old high pressure sodium box lights. We're proposing to remove the lighting for the site and put new LED area lights internal to the site. I know that we are requesting a waiver from the requirement in the ASDO zone for the metal halide lights, as we typically propose LED lights. They're more efficient from a lighting perspective, and they do tend to provide a little bit better distribution. We are proposing 3 decorative lights as well along the frontage, just to kind of help facilitate with the requirements in the ASDO zone, that they're a little more decorative instead of kind of a traditional rectangular fixture, at least along the frontage along 206. There's new building lights proposed as part of the renovations as well. They're a combination of wall pack sconce lights, linear lights that shine downward to accentuate the facade of the building, and just canopy lights that also shine down. Just to touch on, we are requesting a waiver for the maximum average lighting intensity. We have 0.9 foot candles as an average throughout the site, and 0.5 foot candles is required. You tend to get some bright spots for the canopy lights right immediately around the building. And we also like to provide a little bit higher elevation of lighting, for the ingress and egress, especially where you have sidewalks and potential pedestrians crossing with cars entering and exiting the site. And there's a waiver we're also requesting from the ASDO zone is for the 12-foot maximum mounting height. And that really is due to be able to give a little bit better of a distribution from the lighting throughout the site, and have less proposed lights, and try to, propose more landscaping instead of having more area lights throughout the site.
How are they going to be?
15 feet are the area lights, is the mounting height.
So how does that impact the neighbors to the north with this additional lighting, higher lighting?
Yeah, we really just have two lights proposed on the north side of the property, and they will be shielded. The new LED lights, I think they shield like every individual bulb, so there shouldn't be real glare from that perspective, or light kind of shining into the neighboring properties to the north.
And that may be a good segue into the landscaping. And can you talk about the buffer? I mean, that's a critical area, to the north, where it's adjacent to the residences. Can you talk about the existing buffer and then what we're doing there?
Sure. Yeah, along the north of the site, we do have residential properties there. Currently, the buffer is about 9.5 feet wide, and we're not changing that. We're maintaining that existing curb line there, so the width of the buffer is not decreasing. What we are proposing to do is there are some existing trees along the north of the site. What we're proposing is to kind of infill with some shrubs along the north property lines of the residents to kind of help screen that and fill in the blanks, so to speak, with the existing trees that are already there. We wanted to propose shrubs instead of additional trees, just so that we don't compromise the existing trees that are there, and shrubs have a less invasive kind of root system for the trees. So that was why we kind of proposed shrubs instead of additional trees, and we think this will give good screening on top of the fence that's also that borders the north property line as well. I think that would work nicely and give a new and an improved screening to the residential properties to the north.
What kind of fencing are you proposing or is there now?
I'm sorry, we're not proposing a fence. The existing fence, I believe, is a chain link fence, which doesn't really provide screening. Just quite candidly, I think that's pretty evident to everybody. So that's why we're trying to kind of dress it up with infill shrubs between existing trees and create a real screen line to the north properties.
What about lights at night shining onto people's properties in the back?
I mean, from the drive-through, when people are ordering and they have their headlights on, obviously the light does shine in that direction. But I think with the infill of the shrubs, that'll create a much better improvement from what's there today, and give a much better screen so that they have very minimal impact from cars kind of entering the site.
Well, what if the neighbors would prefer solid fencing back there to completely block your headlights in the evening?
Yeah, there's an existing chain link there now. I don't
Well, chain link isn't going to stop headlights.
Right. No, I know. What I was going to say is I don't think it would be an issue to replace that, with a board on board, fully solid fence there.
Okay, let's keep that in mind.
Yes, but keep in mind that you're asking for a variance for the buffer width. So the more you can do to strengthen that buffer, the better.
Sure. Yep.
And, so while we're over there in that neck of the woods, can you talk about the trash disposal area and the buffer there, and the way that's configured, and the variance and waiver relief we may need there? Yeah,
the requirement for the buffer is in that area really is relative to buffers for rehab parking lots. That's a 30-foot buffer requirement. And obviously the trash enclosure is about 15 feet from the property line there, so that infringes into that buffer. The existing condition, I believe the trash enclosure is about 10 feet away, so the buffer is even smaller in the existing. So we are increasing that at least 5 feet where in the area of the trash enclosure, and even more as you move to the east of the trash enclosure for the parking areas. And again, it's very similarly, we're proposing additional shrubs, additional trees, kind of infill that, and kind of complete some gaps based on the existing trees that are there now to provide more of a solid screen.
And can we take a minute and talk about deliveries? We're asking for a variance there too, because we don't have dedicated loading space today, and we're not proposing one. So can you give us the facts about the deliveries and how that's going to work?
Yeah, the McDonald's currently receives their deliveries twice a week. One on Monday night at 11:30, and one Friday afternoon at 1:30. They'll be maintaining that same delivery schedule. The truck does come into the site from 206. They will utilize the bypass lane, and where they will unload will be in front of the trash enclosure. So they will park in front of the trash enclosure to complete their unloading operations, which typically takes about 15 minutes for them to do. One of the variances that's being requested, or one of the waivers that's being requested that Mr. Lippert referenced, is for a designated loading space. There isn't one there today, and the operation works fairly well. They're going to be doing something similar with their deliveries and their loading. They'll utilize the space in front of the trash enclosure to spend 15 minutes and doing their unloading and making their deliveries. There's another variance that goes with this as well, just that we're requesting for the truck delivery and the circulation route. It's required to be separate from the customer circulation, and obviously with the truck utilizing the bypass lane and circulating in the parking aisles to exit, they will be using the same circulation as customers and vehicle and cars. So that's a variance we're also requesting.
Okay.
And just quickly, Scott, sorry to jump in, just to put it on record, the truck that makes deliveries is a WB50. It's about a 55-foot long truck. That's the same truck that makes deliveries there today with a less favorable configuration from a parking and circulation perspective. And that'll be the same size truck to make the deliveries in the proposed.
Mr. Lemay, I might have missed it. Did you mention the hours when the deliveries are made?
Yeah, so it'll be Monday night at 11:30, and it'll be Friday afternoon at 1:30.
What time does the store close?
1 a.m.
Okay, so it'll be during business hours, although late in the day.
Correct.
Thank you.
And forgive me, Mr. Lemay, if we've already touched on this, but on the drainage, we're actually reducing impervious coverage. Is that correct? So talk about the effect of that, please.
Sure. Yeah, quickly from a grading and drainage perspective, the grading is closely mimicking the existing condition generally, obviously with some changes based on the layout of the parking lot to the west. We are reducing the impervious coverage for the site by, it's very small reduction. It's 288 square feet, but we are proposing a new conveyance system for the site, which will discharge at the same points that it does today. There's a drainage manhole in the northeast corner of the site towards the rear of the property. We're just proposing new pipes, new conveyance system to collect that water and discharge it in to the same manhole, the same location, with less impervious coverage than what's there today.
Mr. Lemay, if I may, this relates to an earlier conversation about the excess parking spaces. Just for conversation purposes, wouldn't it be possible to eliminate your need for an impervious coverage variance by reducing some of the parking spaces?
It would be possible, and just based on what I was saying earlier, the operator for the McDonald's here does experience, after certain events like baseball games, football games, and other things that go on in the town, they do get large groups and families that do come and do utilize the parking pretty well there now. So we're thinking we will need the 40 parking spaces that are proposed. But yes, I mean, one way to reduce the impervious coverage would be to lose parking spaces.
Are you using any pervious pavement?
We are not, but that's certainly something we could explore and potentially do.
One thing you might want to consider, and the board might want to consider, you have 4 employee spaces, perhaps some alternative paving material in that area at least.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. I don't think we would have a major issue with that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and we have just a couple of other variances related to the parking area. There's a variance we're requesting for paving materials to identify pedestrian pathways in the parking lot. And I guess the comment that we received from the board professionals with it is there's no clear route, no crosswalks are shown. Can you address that, please?
Sure, and I'm happy to get some feedback from the professionals as well on this. We do have a proposed crosswalk which crosses in front of the drive-through for the parking lot to the west. The crosswalk does come in front of the drive-through in order to cross to the building side and access the building. Is there? It was noted that we would need to get a variance for pavement markings and routes from the parking lot to the building. I guess my question would just be: is there more that needs to be shown for that specifically?
Well, it would appear that someone parked in the western or southern aisles, depending how you're looking at it, would have to, there's no clear way to access the front door, which is facing 206, correct? You'd have to basically navigate through the parking lot. There's no sidewalks. The only crosswalk is where you have your scroll now.
Correct.
There's no clear pedestrian way to access that front door, correct?
I mean, other than exiting your vehicle and walking through the parking lot to get to the crosswalk, that's correct.
So that's another consideration in terms of the over parking question, is perhaps adding some pedestrian facilities through the parking lot as opposed to some of the parking spaces. Something to consider.
Okay.
Yes, if there's anything we can do to try to eliminate a variance condition that we can do, we will certainly take a good look at that. And now, Mr. Lomé, let's talk about, I know we'll have others talk about this, but let's just in general terms talk about signs, what's existing and what's proposed.
Sure. To start with the directional signs that are proposed, we'll have one directional sign at each, the ingress and the egress to Route 206. The signs will include an M logo, and for the entrance, it'll read either welcome or entrance. And for the egress, it'll read either thank you or exit. We are requesting a waiver for the area of the directional signs where 2 square feet is what's allowed, and the signs are 3.75 square feet. But that does include the base of the sign. If you just include the sign itself and not the base, it's closer to 2.8 or 2.9 square feet. The existing freestanding sign is to remain. We're not doing anything. We're not proposing any changes to the freestanding sign. The existing height is plus or minus 19 feet, and the existing area is plus or minus 85 square feet. Those are not conforming. Those are non-conformities that will remain unchanged. I believe 8 feet in height is required for freestanding sign, and 30 square feet in area is required. For the building signage, and the project architect speak more to the signage itself, but the building signage is being updated, based on McDonald standards for a more contemporary look. We're increasing the number of signs now, or currently, from 1 to 5 on the building. Currently, there's the McDonald's word mark sign on the frontage, on the front facade, and in the proposed condition, we'll have McDonald's arch and McDonald's word mark side. On the non-drive-through facade, which is the east facade, we'll have an arch sign. We'll have the arch logo and the McDonald's word sign. And on the drive-through facade on the west side, we're proposing the McDonald's word mark sign.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but then there's some signs that relate to the use of the drive-through facility, correct?
Yeah, just to stay on the building signs quickly, the total area of the signs, just to state it for the board, the existing wall sign, there's only one there. It's 40 square feet in area, plus or minus. In the proposed signage across all 5 signs for the building would be 126.49 square feet, which of course requires a variance that we would be requesting. And for the signs on the building, just to note it for the board and the professionals, those signs are internally illuminated. The McDonald's arch sign is one color. It's the yellow/gold color, and the McDonald's word sign is just the white lettering. So there's not multiple colors on those signs.
Mr. Lomé, just to get a better handle on the signage, do you have, well, we'll skip that for a second. On what I'll call the northbound side of the building facing the 2 drive-up lanes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe what wall signs would be there on that side of the building?
You have the facade facing to the south?
Okay, facing 206, you've got a wall sign, correct?
Yep.
Now, to the right side, facing the double lane, is there a sign on there?
Yeah, there's the arch logo and the McDonald's word mark sign.
And on the opposite wall, on the pickup windows, there's also
the McDonald's word sign, yes.
I know, who's going to see those signs other than the people in the parking lot?
Well, I would
see. Can you see them from 206? I mean, you see the freestanding sign and you see the sign on the front facade.
Yep.
If you're in the parking lot, I'm guessing you don't need to see the sign.
I think you do have some visibility from Route 206. You know, if the board would like to see a reduced sign package, I think that's something we could look into and discuss with McDonald's, and maybe lose a sign or two on the building to kind of bring that closer to conformance. But yeah, I do think traveling, you know, east and westbound on 206, you do get decent visibility of the McDonald's, and it would be good for, you know, for drivers to see that.
North and south.
Sorry, north and south. My apologies.
That's all right.
And then relative to the drive-through signs, there is an increase in the total number of signs from 4 to 9. You have the 2 digital menu boards, you have the 2 digital pre-browse menu boards, you have the 2 order speaker boxes with the canopies. You have the gateway clearance bar, which really is just to make sure, you know, it provides a clearance so that trucks that are too tall and don't meet the clearance come through the drive-through lanes.
Yeah, that's not a sign for anyone to see from the highway. That's just, these are just internal directional signs.
Yeah, it's more of a clearance bar than anything else. And then another, I would call it more of a directional sign than a drive-through sign. Over the pay and pickup windows, it'll say pay here and pick up here.
So though that package is it fair to say is necessary for the safe movement of vehicles through the site to pick up their orders?
It's necessary for the functionality of the drive-through, yes, from a directional perspective. And the positive is that the existing drive-throughs, the collection of the existing drive-through signs is about 86.72 square feet. And the proposed signs, even though there are more signs, we're reducing the area of that to 81.52 square feet. It's about 5 square foot reduction overall of the signage for the drive-through.
Okay.
Mr. LeMay, can I ask a question just on the signs?
Of course.
The details sheet has the mobile app sign shown. Are they being used here at all?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, the mobile order signs, I'll zoom in here. Mobile order signs are just to the west of the building in the parking lot, and they will be proposed for customers to be able to place their order in advance and park in these spaces, and for an employee to come and deliver their food to their car. Kind of very similar, like a curbside pickup that I think we all know very well at this point from being in COVID for the last year and a half.
Okay, so those are staying there, and those are reserved for mobile order pickups.
Correct.
Okay.
So would it be fair to say, when we're on the signage, that the majority of the signs that we're talking about would be a kind of a safety or directional for when we're inside McDonald's, as opposed to visibility on the exterior on 206?
Yeah, relative to the drive-through signs, the pull forward signs, the mobile order pickup signs, and the directional signs, yes, that's fair to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Mr. LeMay, I think I've covered what we wanted to cover initially, but you tell me if we left anything out.
I do have a couple of other items just to address. Just to go back to the landscaping quickly. I know there's a variance or a waiver being requested in terms of street trees. I think that's a waiver in the ASDO zone for the number of street trees. I just wanted to clarify that. We are showing 6 street trees along the frontage. Granted, they are not in the right of way. They are on our site, but they are along the frontage. And that does meet the requirement based on measuring the frontage of the site and just excluding the ingress and egress driveways. The waiver really is more about placement, which the street trees are required to be between the curb and the sidewalk, which we're just proposing them on our property behind the sidewalk. We have some overhead wires that are in the right of way there that I just didn't want to propose trees to have interference with the overhead wires in that location. And then relative to their spacing, I know it's they're supposed to be spaced about 40 feet on center, plus or minus 10 feet. And we're proposing them closer together, between 20 and 30 feet apart. We have 5 on the west side of the property along the frontage, and then we have an additional 1 street tree on the east side of the property, close to the property line, the front property line. So that was just one other item I wanted to make sure that we discussed here. And then lastly, I did want to just discuss the route, the 206 right of way. I know that Route 206, there's a bypass being constructed and there's future plans for the right of way in Route 206 to be expanded. I think the requirement is that it has to be 97 feet wide. Currently from the property line and just measuring across the street, the right of way width is 83 feet. I don't know when, but McDonald's did dedicate, or they made a dedication of about 17 feet in width along the frontage to the township. And I think it is most likely just part of the future improvements that the township is looking to do for Route 206. And I took some quick measurements before the meeting tonight, just looking and speaking relatively to McDonald's side of Route 206 here on the north side. There's approximately 56 feet from the current property line to the south edge of the double turn lane, which is a little difficult to see on this plan, but I'll just sort of throw a red line on here. That's essentially the edge of the double turn lane where I'm just speaking extemporaneously. I'm not sure. I would think that's generally where the location of a landscape median might go. So we have about 56 feet there to that location. And if we, looking at what's in the ordinance and what was in Mr. Maskey's memo, if you have a 14-foot landscape median, a 12-foot travel lane, a 6-foot bike lane, an 8-foot parking lane, and a 15 feet of sidewalk and planting strip, that totals about 55 feet in width. So I think while we don't have a 97-foot wide right-of-way for Route 206, I do think at least on the north side and for, relative to the McDonald's, there is enough space to fit those elements sometime in the future.
Yeah, I just might point out, you're only responsible for basically your half of the
right.
So in other words, from the central line to your property line, that's what you would have to address. Your half of the 97 feet.
Yeah, and Mr. Maskey, just so you know, this is the current property line, which is set back pretty decently from the curb. The old deed book does show the property line along the curb. So there was it was 17 feet of a dedication that was done previously. I just don't know that was done on the south side. I can't say if it was or it wasn't, but I just wanted to make sure that I pointed it out and we talked about it. So
we run into that, just a little historic note, on some other applications when this was actually Route 31 and there were some odd dedications.
Yeah.
I have one quick question, minor one. You're showing, it looks like deciduous trees there. Any thought to making them evergreen so that they're obviously green year round?
Are you talking about
right along your trees near the highway frontage?
Sure. Yeah, that's not an issue. I think we were, yes, they can certainly be evergreen trees.
Thank you.
I have a question about the lighting again. So you're not going to use metal halide? You can use LED lights instead?
Correct.
Okay, what's the Kelvin, or what color is that light that you plan to use compared to what the metal halide would give you?
The metal halide, typically what I've seen is closer to the 3000 color temperature, which is a little more, it's on the more orange side versus like a bluish or a white. What McDonald's usually proposes for their lights, what I've seen with their lighting vendors, they go with 5000, which is pretty white and stark.
Yeah, it's daytime. It's like daytime.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear you.
That would be daytime sun. That'd be very.
It's very white. Yeah, it's almost a bluish white. What we can do is we'll request, and we can certainly add it onto our lighting plan, that the light temperature be 3000 or 4000 Kelvin. If the board and the professionals have a preference one way for a temperature, we can certainly specify that.
Yeah, that'd be like even a park if it's at 5000.
Yeah, I've given their lighting vendor that feedback.
I think that should be a condition that we keep it low.
Is there a preferred temperature between 3,000 and 4,000 or?
3000.
Okay.
All right, I think that's our initial presentation with
Okay.
Mr. Monet.
Okay, that being the case, any more questions? Okay, Drew, have all the questions, issues you raised in your report been addressed? Drew?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Yeah, I believe they have. We mostly had the questions, concerns about the drive-through. I think that's been discussed. Drainage and landscaping, we had some comments in there about some of the landscaping, and I think that's been discussed. So yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. In that case, if there's no more questions from members of the board, we'll open it up for public questioning. Now, public, if you're not aware, the public gets two places to talk to us. Later on, you'll have a chance to make statements, be sworn in and make statements, but now you have an opportunity to question the witness. So Fred, would you open the public lines and see if there's any questions from the public for this witness?
Sure will. Okay, so this is the public's chance. And again, given Mr. Anderson's statement, Mr. Anderson, we want them to be able to see their video, correct?
For questions, that is not a requirement.
Okay, great.
Is not technically a requirement. If they want to make comments, anything in the nature of testimony, the DCA rules do require video.
Okay, perfect. So at this time, we don't require video. So again, please state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name. And these are questions for this witness, please. Ms. Gulliford, are you there?
Of course. Susan Gulliford, Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. A couple questions on parking spaces. The mobile order and the pull forward spaces, are they included in the total count toward parking spaces?
They are included in the 40 spaces.
Okay, you also mentioned an increase in processing, and you have those 2 lanes now going through. Is there going to be an increase in the number of employees that will be on site and their parking?
No.
Okay, I have a question about the chain link fence at the rear. I believe at the environmental commission meeting, I thought somebody had testified that it was chain link fence plus, I think they're called privacy slats. Do they have those, or would they be proposed, or did you want to go with like board on board or something?
What I think, I'm not sure, Susan. I'd want to go out and look at it and confirm, but I think it's an open chain link fence. If it's an option for us to provide like privacy slats and retrofit the existing fence, we would explore that option. Otherwise, putting up a solid board on board fence would be the alternative.
Okay. Oh, I thought David wanted to say something. The time of the trash pickup, since it's over in that corner behind those houses, what's the time on that?
Yeah, I have that. Hold on. The trash is picked up twice a week, Monday and Friday, between 8 and 10 a.m.
Okay. I have a question about the crosswalks up near Route 206, where those sidewalks cross your 2 driveways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the regulations are on that. Is there going to be any painted crosswalk across the 2 driveways as kind of an extra note to the drivers to be careful, or is that not required?
We're not proposing it. I don't think it's required. It's in the DOT's right of way. If it's something that the board would request and they'd like to see it, I don't think there's a issue adding striped crosswalks at those crossings.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Sure, no problem.
I failed to say that, but we're open for public. Right?
Thank you, Susan.
Any other?
Okay.
Anybody
Another
else?
question? Mr. Collins, again, please state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Mute, okay.
There you go.
My name is David Collins, Collins. I'm 118 Meadowbrook Drive.
Thank you.
I have, right now, the fans on top of McDonald's, I guess they go to their fryers or something. A lot of times they seem like they're out of balance and like rubbing, making loud noise. Anything going to be done with new fans or less fans?
Sure, Mr. Collins. It's probably a better question for the architect, but just to answer it for you, they will have new rooftop equipment. It'll be much more efficient. It'll be much quieter, and the rooftop equipment will be screened by a parapet all the way around the top of the building.
Okay, great. Another thing is, how about a dog walking area? I live right off, where is it, block 161, lot 9, right off that corner. Mm-hmm. It seems like that's where everybody walks their dog. And it's such a small space there. I see off to the left, far left, there's open grass spaces. You should make like a dedicated place over there somewhere, because a lot of people going through there, a lot of people are travelers, bring their dog and campers and everything. And it is kind of a nuisance in my backyard. My dog goes nuts every time. So,
Well, the good news, Mr. Collins, is that there's not going to be any parking spaces in that area in the proposed condition. I think there's 8 or 10 on that side, on your side, what I would say, of the property currently. So all of the travelers passing through using Route 206, right, would park on the west side of the property now, away from, you said you're lot 9 on to the northeast.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, they would be parking away from you. So I would anticipate you would not have that as a major issue with the proposed conditions.
Is it possible to fix that with a dog walk area sign or something like that?
What
Yeah,
I think we could do,
dog
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think what you could probably do is that I've seen them a lot now. You have like a little post with a little trash can on it and like doggy bags, I guess I'll say, for the lack of a better term. That's something we could certainly propose on the west side of the property, just to demonstrate that they have, refuse bags for their dogs and a little trash can that they can use. And that might kind of guide people to use that and take their dogs out in that area.
Right, that would be very helpful.
No problem.
The fence behind, I guess it's what, your north boundary there and east boundary. The east is just a chain link. The north is chain link with those privacy slats.
Okay.
But most of them are busted out and broken and deteriorated. But I would like to see a solid, like a block fence along there, like maybe 4 feet of block, and then like a wooden slats on top of that or something. Because the drive-through noise, the speakers, I can hear all hours of operation. Hi, may I help you? Hi, may I help you? Hi, may I help you? All day long. The headlights coming through there. It's, I've been here 20 years. I'm pretty used to it, but if it's going to be double the cars pulling through there and then merge in and then somebody trying to go around all that, there's going to be horns honking, this one stopped, this one's moved, this, it's at the tight space back there.
Sure.
I go to McDonald's quite often.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, just a heavy duty fence back there would be great. I'm all for, McDonald's making lots of money, but I just want to cut down on the light and the noise and the dog walking back there. That's my only and the fans. That's
sure.
Just a little more peace and quiet back there.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things, Mr. Collins. I think the additional shrubs along the north of the property and the proposed landscaping will help with attenuate some of that, headlights and noise a little bit. With the new menu boards and the new speaker boxes with the side-by-side drive-through configuration, the hi, can I help you? Hi, may I help you? The noise level, the decibel level will be reduced at night just based on the ambient sound. So hopefully you'll hear less of that, or it won't be as loud. And in terms of additional screening, whether it's chain link with privacy slats or a more solid fence, we'll certainly look into that. And I think that's something we could certainly work through and put something there, whether it's with privacy slats or a more solid fence, or if we have like acoustical sheathing that gets retrofitted on the fence that could help block and attenuate light and sound.
Yeah, something solid. The slats, I don't think they're going to do it, but and evergreens would be nice. Shrubs are nice in the summertime, but in the winter, I can see every car that drives through that drive-through. So, right out my kitchen window, I can see all this.
Right.
But just, a couple things on my mind.
Yeah, and I think a majority of those shrubs right near the drive-through that we are proposing are going to be evergreen shrubs. They won't be deciduous, but we can certainly, I'll confirm that for you, and we can propose more evergreen shrubs back there just to kind of make sure that it provides a more of a year-round screening.
Okay, great. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Anybody else out there?
I see no others, Mr. Chairman, so you can proceed.
Okay, so Mr. Lippert, are you finished with this witness at the moment then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think Tina needs a break. All right, she's been working for 2 hours now, so why doesn't
Sorry,
everybody
Tina.
come back? It's 8:56. Why don't we all come back at 9:06, 10
Very
minutes.
good. Thank you, sir.
Thank
If
you.
everybody could just,
Mute.
yeah, mute and stop your video for the time, that would be helpful.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Three or four more people need to show up. Jim Walmack, are you there? Philomena?
I'm here.
Okay, Philomena, you there?
I'll take another,
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure that everybody's here. Okay, take a roll call, please.
okay. Well, Miss Lily, Phil, you there? All right, we'll go back to her.
Oh,
Mr.
hold
Yes,
on.
no, yes, I'm here. I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Valchek,
Here.
Mr. Walmacher,
Here.
Miss Comfer,
Here.
Miss Haynes,
Here.
Chairman Herbert.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Maskey,
Here.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. DeSessa,
He's still muted. Let's see.
Drew, are you there? Fred, are you there?
I am here. I see Mr. DeSessa is still muted, so let me see if I ask him to unmute. Maybe we'll give him another minute. Who we have left? Mr. Anderson, I think, is here, right?
Yeah, everybody's here except Drew.
Can we start without room? Yeah,
That would be a Mr. Anderson question.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so Mr. Lippert, why don't you start off and be the next witness?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My next witness is our architect, Robert Goldman.
Mr. Goldman, can you raise your, where are you?
I'm right here.
Oh, there you are. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, just state and spell your name for the record.
Robert Goldman, R-O-B-E-R-T, G-O-L-D-M-A-N.
Mr. Goldman, can you give the board the benefit of your professional educational background and experience?
I'm a graduate of the University of Maryland School of Architecture with a Bachelor of Architecture, a registered architect in many states along the East Coast, including New Jersey. I've been registered for probably over 25 years in New Jersey and have done numerous projects in New Jersey and many locations throughout the Northeast.
Excuse me, Tina, I see Mr. DeSessa is back.
Okay,
Drew, you're here. You can hear us?
Drew?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, guy.
That's fine. And you've been accepted as an expert in the field of architecture by other land use boards in the state of New Jersey?
Correct.
Okay, we can accept as a qualification.
Thank you. And you've done a fair number of applications for McDonald's in New Jersey in recent years, is that correct?
Correct.
So if you could just give the board a brief overview of the interior and exterior improvements that are planned for the building.
Ken, Alex, are you there still?
I'm here. I'll bring it up.
Can you bring up the renderings? Okay, so as we've all discussed tonight, we've learned that McDonald's has been undergoing a rebranding, re-imaging, and frankly, a response to the success that they've had throughout the years with their public. Obviously, the public enjoys the product and the service. McDonald's has always been trying to stay ahead of whatever they can to make the experience better for the customer. So more recently, For the last 15 years, I've been involved with McDonald's and their endeavor to better not only the drive-through experience, but also the in-dining experience, and also upgrading and making more relevant their kitchen equipment so it can handle all of these other things. This has not been a site plan or a drive-through experience and change. It's been more holistic than that. More relevancy on the outside appearance of the building. I know at this location, it seems like we have more signs than normal, but that's only because we had very few signs at the previous or the existing condition. But nationally, McDonald's has been cutting back on the number of signs and some of the dramatic colors and roof lines, etc. So at this location, we did a few things. Number one is we brought the two entrances to the building forward. And if you can see in the top rendering, to the left-hand side where the vertical wood slats are, and to the right-hand side where the vertical wood slats are, the entrances are now at the front of the building, which actually satisfies one of the requirements in your overlay district. We've removed the sign, the entrances that were partially back into the building, partially for a safety reason, so that any pedestrian access would not be conflicting with the drive-through area, either on the non-drive-through side of the building or the drive-through side of the building. We removed the iconic red double mansard roof with the overhangs, and what we call neutralize the parapets, and built them up so as they show in this rendering. And that's part of our attempt to shield the roof from, and all the rooftop equipment from view. The time that this work is being designed to let the public know as they drive by that something's new happening at McDonald's. The interior is dramatically changed with a lot of equipment changes, a lot of equipment added for their new menu items, decor packages that are varied and pretty exciting, and have been, I think, very positively accepted by most of the public that enjoys coming to McDonald's. The one thing that I would like to interject, one thing that was mentioned was how the drive-through works and how quick it's going to be and how they actually manage it. And since I've had a fair number of years experience with this, they actually have worked this out so that they don't encourage this drive-through unless the kitchen upgrades have been made to make the kitchen to be able to operate more efficiently and more quickly. And by getting all the stacking in that was discussed that you see, the experience of going through the drive-through is a more steady experience. They actually typically have two employees taking orders, one taking the inside lane order, one taking the outside lane order, and they're close enough to each other where they can communicate, and they direct the car at one or the other order point to move before the other car moves, to alleviate the confusion about which car has the right of way, which also alleviates what that gentleman, one of the neighbors, was indicating about being some horns honking. And so that's been very successful. They've been doing this for over 10 years now, and it's really a successful, well-working machine. I don't know if any of you have driven through these during the pandemic, but on occasion I have. And there's almost, once you get to the cash window and you pay, there's almost no break in the traffic flow. That's how well it moves. And that alleviates or minimizes at least the stacking problems they have back into the highway. The additions that we're doing on this building, as a trade-off for the portion of the building that we removed from the back, were to get the cash window at the right location away from the order point to make the most efficient use of space, so there's no gaps where cars can try to fit in, but they can't. It's all a solid flow. And it also, we located that a certain distance away from the pickup window, which does the same, and it optimizes the travel distance to get from cash to pickup. And again, it just really has made a very efficient traffic flow throughout the site. And more recently, the pull forward window, which is showing in the lower left image, that pull forward windows, if in the event that somebody has come in and ordered a lot or something has happened, they'll say to the car at the pickup window, please pull forward to the pull forward window. And those are located in such a way that the car behind can swing around and break out and get to the exit without having to hold up any traffic. There's a lot of thought going into this by McDonald's, and a lot of the public are not aware of that. So having said that, I think that's an introduction to what's been going on for the last 10, 15 years at McDonald's, and now finally this location that has had this McDonald's, I think, since the 50s. This is an old style building that's had many renovations made to it, and now it's getting another one.
I think I have one question about the signage on the what I believe is the south facing wall there, the ordering window. Yeah, right there. Really, obviously people that are in line know it's McDonald's. That's not going to be really seen by anybody but somebody in the parking lot. Why do you need that? That's not going, that's, you know, because of the curvature of 206 and so on. That's not going to be seen by hardly anyone. So could that sign be eliminated?
I'm sure it can be. So the way that the process works, McDonald's is a large corporation. They give me a certain amount of leeway and they withhold a certain amount of leeway for me. So we run all these projects by their corporate reviewers. And the reviewers look at the site plan and they say, hey, we think we might be able to see this. Let's put a sign there and see if it's going to make sense. They do. And then I come to the meetings and I go, no, we can take that off. No problem.
Okay, if you can take that off, I think that would be a you know, improvement. I think it's an unnecessary sign.
Yeah, and I'll pile on here with Ms. Haynes. The sign on the bottom right-hand photo, I'm looking at an aerial photo. The only people who would see that are the people parked in the parking lot behind the office building.
I wondered about that one too.
And
yeah.
Perhaps the gentleman who was complaining about the dog, well, I think he could see it from his house.
Yeah, okay, let's reduce those two.
I'll run the second one by them. I know that they looked at the site plans and they felt the traffic coming in that direction would see that. But
Well, literally, if you look at, in all seriousness, that one on the back side, you would have to be in the parking lot behind the office building to see that sign.
like I said, I'll run it by. I imagine they will not argue with me.
Okay.
I point out that there will be no running by anybody if the application is to be acted on tonight.
I hear you.
Yeah, we'll review all that towards the end.
Okay. There's just one other area I wanted to get into with you, Mr. Goldman. And so let me ask you, are you familiar with the ASD overlay zone criteria?
Yes, I've reviewed it many times.
Yeah, and it's true, is it not, that we're not going to be able to comply with a lot of that? Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And it's unfortunate. But it's an existing old building with additions to it and odd structural situations. And there's just many of those items we can't address, really.
I'm sorry, many of those items?
We cannot address, I'm sorry.
Is that because you don't think they're contemplated for a unique style building like a McDonald's?
Yes, it appears to me that the guidelines were written more for new development or for more recent development. Just for instance, most of the parking should be at the rear of the building, but we can't do that. We don't want a two-story building. Well, we don't have a two-story building. We don't want flat roofs. Well, we have a lot of kitchen equipment on the roof and a need to screen it. And so we can't do gables and dormers and whatever. It doesn't really apply. And it's unfortunate, but I don't know how we can do anything different.
But importantly, one of the criteria that we do comply with is to provide for screening of the rooftop equipment, correct?
That's one issue we did comply with. The other, as I mentioned, we pulled the two entrances off the side of the building forward, and that addresses the notion of having the the entrances both facing the sidewalk. I can't get it as close to the sidewalk as the ordinance is hoping for, but I can get it as closer than it was.
Mr. Goldman, rather than going through all of the requirements that are in the back of my memo on the ASDO, and just so we have it on the record, can you just point out which standards you are complying with and that you would need waivers from the remainder?
We are complying with the entrances at the front of the building.
Let me make it a little clearer for the board. If you turn to page 7 on my memo dated April 23rd, it starts with comment number 9, and it lists all the applicable ASDO standards. So, Mr. Goldman, if you look at A, general building designs, do you comply with any of those?
Scott, could you walk me through those?
Yeah, so parking lot shall be to the side or the rear. That's one. Can't do that, right?
Right, I think
Well, not the ones, it'll take too long to go through the ones you can't meet, it sounds like. So if you could just hit the ones that you can meet, and we'll just assume you need a waiver for everything else. Mr. Goldman, you don't have a copy of the letter?
I actually do, but it means I have to get to another view on my screen.
Okay.
The building orientation is an existing condition. We do have some screening over the front windows. We did remove there's 2 greenhouse windows on the front of the building that were letting a lot of heat gain on the front of the building. And we removed those. So we are complying with that.
That's number 5, A5.
Number 5, I apologize.
Okay.
7, I can't do. Number 14, we do satisfy.
Okay. So B.
B, I can't do 1, I can't do 3. I can't do 6.
Okay.
I cannot do C1. I cannot do A or B or C or D or F.
You're now reciting the ones you can't do. Mr. Maskey's request was you recite the ones you can.
I'm sorry, I'm just making sure we click them all. G, I can do.
G is good, okay.
E1, I can do. I did do. A and B. 2B, I did do. 2C, I cannot do. I would say that E2, I did consider, but I can't match some of the colors you're asking for, but we did consider that in the color choices we made.
Okay.
I believe I satisfy E4.
Okay.
I do comply with E9.
Good.
I do comply with E10. I don't think I can comply with 12, 13, or 16.
And I think we covered G and H with the
Correct.
engineer.
Correct.
And you weren't, just to recollect, on the lighting, there were some waivers you were asking for in terms of the pole height and the minimum wattage.
Yes.
Okay, so you basically weren't meeting the lighting and the landscaping and street trees. Were you meeting any of those? Just trying to think back.
Alex?
Yeah, sorry. The street trees, Mr. Maskey, we're providing the proper number, but in terms of the placement between the curb and the sidewalk, we're not able, we were not doing.
Okay. And so we will skip to I, pedestrian circulation. Doesn't look like, well, there was some discussion about that. Maybe we can get into.
I mean, in terms of the sidewalks and pigmented concrete, all the sidewalks will have a a broom finish to them when they're installed. If there's we are asking for a waiver in terms of like providing brick pavers or stone blocks or things like that. We're doing all asphalt, so that would be a waiver. And crosswalks, we do have a striped crosswalk, but there's no real change in materials. We could certainly make the crosswalks reflective with like epoxy paint and have them like, they have like beads that you can make them reflective. So I think we could do that from the circulation perspective.
Okay, finally, Jay.
I think we discussed the screening of the parking lots.
I think you did that, yeah.
Yep, and then, I mean, just to touch on the islands within the parking lots, we're asking for a waiver from that. We try to put as many trees and shrubs as feasible in the curb islands, not to overcrowd and, you know, just to kind of promote the growth of the shrubs and in the curb island along the bypass lane for the drive-through on the west side of the building. I know we have some existing utilities, electric and cable run under there, so we didn't propose any trees, but we do have some shrubs in there. But it is still a waiver in terms of the amount that we are providing.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
David, I have a question. The goal of the overlay zone is what? To make it give you a downtown feeling, or
It's, yeah, particularly in the gateways. So this isn't town center yet. Physically, you know, you go down a couple more blocks and you're in town center, but the idea was to give it, particularly with the bypass opening this Saturday, everybody, this becomes more of a lesser road, if you will. It's still going to be a state highway officially, but it's not going to function as one. So the idea is to get buildings that are more, as somebody said before, I don't know, modern, but it's more appealing, perhaps, something that you might find in a more of a town environment. I mean, I don't think it was ever meant that anybody would ever meet every single one of these, because each site has its own conditions, but the idea was to try and meet these standards.
And if I could just interject really quickly, relative to the signs, I was just talking with McDonald's offline. The word mark sign, this McDonald's sign on the west side of the building over the drive-through windows, that can be eliminated. And the word mark sign on the east side of the building, what we call the non-drive-through side towards the rear, that can also be eliminated. So we could lose those two signs. I just wanted the board and professionals to hear that, so they can take that into consideration.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
And with that, that's all the questions I have for Mr. Goldman.
any more questions from members of the board? If not, Fred, would you open up for questions from members of the public?
Sure. Again, this is a time for questions for this witness on this application. Please state your name and address, spelling your last name.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, since the applicant was switching between witnesses, I think it's fair to say that questions would be appropriate for either of the two.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Hi.
Hello, Licia, there?
Hi, Leisha Gaber-Bayless at Huff Lane in Hillsborough. I just had a quick question.
Could you spell your last name for the reporter, please?
Sure. G-A-B as in boy, E-R, B-A-Y-L-I-S.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, like, if you're not able to put enough trees on, do you ever ask applicants to think if they could put in a rain garden? I don't know if that would be possible, given how much asphalt might be there, but that's all. Thanks.
Is there a question from Mr. LeMay?
I can speak to it. Yeah, it sounded like it was directed towards the board, but I could certainly speak to it. As part of the review with the DRCC, the Delaware Raritan Canal Commission, they did ask us to put a manufactured treatment device to treat the pavement and the stormwater runoff. So we do have a water treatment device on site proposed to treat the stormwater runoff coming from the pavement areas before it discharges into the system.
And sorry, with that, are you using the special asphalt so the rainwater goes straight through it? I know that's more expensive, right?
No, so what we have is our normal, stormwater collection inlets and pipes, and they run to a concrete box which has media filters in it. So it treats the stormwater runoff to about 80% of suspended solids being removed before it gets discharged back into the public system.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the public for the witnesses? See none, Chairman, at this time. You can proceed.
Okay. Mr. Lippert, next witness.
Yes, our next witness is Paul Going, our traffic engineer from Atlantic Traffic and Design.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
And my name is Paul, and the last name is Going, G-O-I-N-G, just like the word going.
All right, Mr. Going, would you give us your professional background, please?
Sure. I'm a 1993 graduate of the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art, where I earned a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Civil Engineering. Since that time, I've been working as a traffic and transportation engineer. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, as well as Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and New York. I've been accepted as a traffic expert at numerous boards throughout New Jersey, including here in Somerset County, Bound Brook, Franklin, and Manville.
We can accept the qualification.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Going, would you just explain to the board what you were charged with doing and what were your findings concerning traffic circulation and parking?
Sure. We were asked to take a look at the project from a traffic circulation, access, and parking standpoint. So we, for this particular project, as you know, the building is actually being reduced in size in the proposed condition. The number of seats is also being reduced. And in that type of condition, when we calculate the amount of traffic that's generated by the site, there's actually a reduction calculated. So we calculated a reduction of 5 to 10 trips in a peak hour. Because this restaurant has been here for many years, has a customer base that's been well established, I don't think that we're actually going to get a reduction in traffic, but I don't believe there'd be a significant increase in traffic. Based on that, I can conclude that that project will not have a significant impact on area traffic. Route 206 is a state DOT jurisdiction, as you know. We submitted our findings in terms of the amount of traffic to the DOT. We asked them if this project needs a new permit. The DOT agreed with our finding that the project wouldn't have a significant impact on traffic and that a new DOT permit is not required. They gave us a letter. It's been submitted to the board, dated October 8th, 2020, confirming that. In terms of circulation, I think Alex went over that in a lot of detail, and Robert also went over it. I would just add that in the current condition, as you pull in off of 206, you've got parking immediately to your right. As cars stack up, there's not enough room for those cars to get out. We're moving all the parking to the other side of the building, to the south side of the building, considering 206 to be north-south. So we're actually eliminating a lot of the conflicts there on that side of the building, where you have traffic coming in off the state highway and you have the drive-through activity. So I think there's a great benefit to moving that parking to the other side. And at the same time, we're also introducing the side-by-side drive-through. As Alex described, the side-by-side drive-through is more efficient. It processes orders faster. McDonald's has found through 3 years of research that the pinch point in the drive-through is with the ordering process. The ordering typically takes about a minute, whereas paying for your food and picking up your food takes about 30 seconds. So by putting in those two order points, they're able to maximize their efficiency. And as Robert mentioned, it does require the restaurant inside, the kitchen equipment, to be able to produce that food, which is being done here. In terms of the queuing, I think Alex described it well. I believe we do have the 5 queuing spaces that are required, and it is a significant improvement over the existing condition. The proposed ordering point is a little bit closer to the state highway, but because we have the side-by-side drive-through, we have 2 lanes, so we have twice as many cars that we can fit before affecting parking. We're eliminating the parking from the right-hand side of that lane. We're keeping the parking for the 8A stalls on the left-hand side of that lane, so they're close to the building entrance. But overall, it's a great improvement. Moving around the back of the building in the existing condition, you have the drive-through lane and then you have a parking aisle. Both of those are eastbound towards Route 206. So if you pull into that parking aisle and you don't find a parking stall, your only option is to exit the site. So you could turn left out onto 206 and then make another left into the restaurant. There's a 2-way center turn lane out there. But it's a much better situation that we have proposed, where we have 2-way parking in the parking field. Also today, if you come out of that drive-through, I'm sure people do it. They're not supposed to because it's a 1-way aisle, but you're not supposed to turn right into that parking field. So if there's something wrong with your order, if you decide you need to use the bathroom or anything like that, you've again got to pull out onto the highway and come around. So we're improving the circulation and improving safety by making that change to the parking circulation and the 2-way aisles. The final thing is, in terms of parking, we do have a lot more parking than is required. But we are also reducing from I think 61 spaces to 40 spaces. So we're reducing the parking by about 1/3. And I think that the 40 stalls is appropriate for this size of a restaurant. That's about the number we see for a restaurant with this square footage of I think it's about 4,200 square feet. So in conclusion, I think that the new drive-through enhances safety. The new circulation pattern enhances safety. The DOT gave us their letter of no interest, which is the approval we were seeking from them to continue to operate the proposed restaurant on the existing site with the existing driveways.
Frank, I have one question. Earlier, when we were discussing the backup that currently is on 206 around, between 11 and 1, the lunch rush hour. And because you're going to have the double ordering line, which will help with that. Have you personally observed that period of time? I mean, I've seen it, but I haven't counted cars in the backup. Something was said earlier about possibly, I believe, widening the entrance or widening the pass-through lane earlier by 2 feet, I think was mentioned. Would that be your recommendation, just to assure we don't have that backup on the highway? Because that's a mess at that point.
Yeah, I agree. Alex and I actually spoke about that before the meeting tonight. And by widening it out a little bit more, we'll be able to store an additional car while letting another car get by and go around the back.
I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I have for Mr. Going. Thank you.
I just have one question myself. So I didn't realize until tonight that the highway was going to remain a state highway. I thought it was being turned over to the township. But in any event, in the future design, if that becomes divided, how would the customers get in and out at that point?
Well, I mean, if it becomes divided, that we would have a right in and a right out. There would be some signage changes to show that, but essentially the barrier down the middle of the road, whether planted median would prevent the left turns. So
I have to drop down in Montgomery to turn around.
There's a lot of McDonald's. I've worked on a lot of them myself. I think if you're coming northbound on 206, you may route yourself a little differently and go to a different restaurant. And I mean, that's just one of the consequences of dividing a highway. We have that a lot in New Jersey.
Any other questions? If not, Fred, can you open the lines to the public?
Sure. Again, anybody have any questions for this witness or at this time? I see none, Chairman.
Okay. Thanks, Lippert.
Thank you. And finally, we have Brian Seidel, who's our professional planner.
Mr. Seidel, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure. For the record, my name is Brian, B-R-I-A-N. Last name is Seidel, S-E-I-D-E-L.
Thank you. Mr. Lippert.
Mr. Seidel, would you give us your qualifications as a professional planner in New Jersey?
Sure. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Landscape Architecture from Temple University. I've been working in the field of land use planning since 1997. I am a licensed New Jersey professional landscape architect and professional planner, and I've testified in front of numerous boards and commissions throughout New Jersey on applications similar to this.
We can accept your qualification.
Thank you. So, Mr. Seidel, let's start with the use. Let's start with the D variance. Can you explain what the consequences are of the changes that we're making to the site relating to the fact that this is not a permitted use to begin with?
Correct. So arguably, the application may be reviewed as a D2 variance for an expansion of a non-conforming condition. However, it was determined in the review letters based on the extent of the changes, a D1 use variance would be appropriate. And that is primarily due to the fact that while restaurants are permitted, restaurants that serve directly to customers in the vehicles are not permitted, and that being a drive-through. I think it is important to note now, however, that banks are permitted in here, and banks are permitted to have drive-through facilities.
Yeah, and what about based on the testimony that's been presented and the evidence that's been presented, what do you conclude concerning site suitability and meeting the municipal land use criteria for a D1 variance?
Yes, I believe the application does justify and provide all of the satisfaction of the relief for the 4 elements of proof regarding special reasons. The renovations will improve the operational efficiencies, traffic flow, safety, convenience, operations for the existing facility. It will provide handicap accessibility improvements to bring the site into ADA compliance. The renovations will promote brand familiarity, meeting customer experiences and be consistent with the overall branding. The aesthetics will give a fresh look into the area, bringing the site into compliance with more modern building materials and just giving them a fresh look. Overall, the proposed improvements will satisfy and promote the purposes of land use law, specifically purposes A, G, H, I, and M. Regarding the suitability of the site is particularly suited for the use by virtue of its context and condition. That being that the business has been here for the last 50 years. It has a built-in customer base, and it's adjacent to an existing commercial highway. Regarding the public impact, the changes will improve the way the site functions and its relationship with the neighbors, the adjacent roadways, traffic circulation. And the site plan has been designed to function safely and efficiently to improve the accessibility on the site. The zoning plan is not impacted by the application. It's consistent with the master plan and the goals for a stable rateable tax base. Provides new jobs for the area, and the master plan permits or requires, encourages rather, retention of businesses as much as encouraging new businesses in the area. A number of the dimensional deviations and variances that are required are due to existing non-conforming conditions on the site. Majority of those, if not all of those conditions, are being improved or reduced in this situation and not worsened or expanded. So the improvements bring the site into closer conformance with the zoning regulations.
All right, so now we're into this the C relief rather than the D relief. Am I correct for the bulk variances? Is that what you're speaking of now?
Yes, that's correct.
So are we doing this under a C2 basis? That the benefits outweigh any detriment?
I think they could really be reviewed and approved on both standards. Regarding the existing non-conforming conditions, I believe they could be approved as a C2 at the hardship. However, I do also believe they can be approved as a C1, as a flexible C, as the benefits of.
C1 is the hardship. C2 is flexible, just for the record.
I'm sorry, I misstated. Yeah. The flexible C is justifiable as the benefits of the application as a whole substantially outweigh any detriments of the application. As I mentioned, the non-conforming conditions are being improved with the application. The front yard setbacks, the lot coverage, the amount of parking that's being provided are all being reduced in terms of their non-conformity.
And what about the sign package? What can you say about that? Now that we've reduced it.
Now that we've reduced it even further, even though the number of signs was greater, and you heard testimony regarding the safety directional aspects of those signage, the overall sign area is being reduced. So again, with the concessions that were just made to remove the wall signs on both sides of the building, again, this will bring it even closer into conformance with the ordinance.
With respect to the C variances also, what can you say as far as satisfying the negative criteria?
There's essentially no negative aspects of the application here. It's really with the modernization of the site. You heard from the engineer, they're bringing this into conformance, even though we're reducing the impervious coverage. It's being improved with stormwater facilities to treat the water in these areas. There's a landscaping that's being added to provide additional screening. So there's really no detriment to the public good, no impairment to the zoning plan or the zoning ordinance.
And this is consistent with the master plan, you would say, correct?
I will, yes.
I don't know if I missed anything. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the variances?
No, just in conclusion, overall, the project is a substantially positive upgrade for the site, for the community. I believe the statutory criteria for the granting of all the variance has been shown and the approval is warranted.
Thank you. That's all I have for this witness.
So any questions from members of the board, or Mr. Maskey or Mr. Anderson?
None here.
Okay.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so in that case, let's ask to turn it over, open for public again, public questioning for this witness.
Okay, anybody from the public, this is your chance. Ask questions to this witness. Please raise your hand. Seeing none, Chairman, I think you can proceed.
Okay, so at this point, we have an opportunity, public has an opportunity to make statements if they so wish. So, is there anybody in the public that wants to make a statement about this application?
And Mr. Chairman, this is the situation that I spoke to at the beginning of the application, where if people want to make a statement, if they want to say anything that they want the board to consider in deciding this application, that must be under oath, and they must appear by video, not just by audio.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Okay, so anybody from the public that wants to comment on this application, you can raise your hand. Again, I'm going to promote you because you will need to start your video. Please state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name. So, Mr. Collins, I see you raised your hand. If you could unmute yourself and start your, there you go. Can I unmute yourself now? You just need to unmute yourself, Mr. Yep. There you go.
Mr. Collins, do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
David Collins, DAVID COLLINS, 118 Meadowbrook Drive, Hillsborough.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Collins.
just want to make sure that it is on the record or whatever that there is some kind of solid, sturdy fence along the north border and the east border. Especially that east border is just an open chain link fence, and a lot of car headlights and commotion come through that. And also the fans on top of the building. It looks like that the shelter you have around the building only goes on 3 sides of the building. So it's open towards the residential properties back here, and that's going to let the fan noise come out the back to our backyards. Also, the dog walking area. I don't know how people find that little corner there, but if you can get them off, I guess it would be to the west side over by the big parking lot. I just wanted all that to be on record, and so it's not forgotten about. I think that's everything.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, yes.
if I may just, I was wondering if somebody could address Mr. Collins' question about the roof enclosure. There's 3 sides instead of 4.
Would that be Mr. LeMay or Mr. Goldman?
I'll defer to Mr. Goldman.
You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Goldman.
Got it. The reason why that back side is not screened is because the roof is sloping towards the back of the building, and that's the way the water is collected for downspouts. I can try to get a screen that doesn't come down to the roof surface. It's held up so the water can still flow underneath of it, but it would be a screen. It wouldn't be the same materials that we're using on the other sides of the building, but it would be a roof screen that I believe would help. It would be solid. That would help in any kind of, could possibly provide sound attenuation. And more importantly, we'll put on our drawings to make sure that those fans are inspected and serviced or replaced if necessary.
Okay, and I guess at that point, okay, so as far as Mr. LeMay, this would be for you then. I think Mr. Collins raised the question of a masonry wall halfway up. Would that make any difference from a solid wooden wall as far as noise reduction, or not?
No, I mean, if you put like a masonry retaining wall versus a solid, and with the fence on top of it versus a solid, vinyl board-on-board fence, however you wanted to do it, I think it generally serve the same purpose. Yeah. So I think the fence is probably it's probably a better route to go instead of doing
plus
a
the
wall.
masonry wall would probably be wider too at the base.
Yep. Yeah. You have like a foot wide of thickness versus the fence, which is maybe 4 to 6 inches.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Mr. Lippert, you want to close up?
Yeah, so at this point, I don't know if the board's prepared to vote on this application. It sounds like.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I'm sorry, Mr. Lippert, didn't mean to interrupt this, Frankins. I want to make sure that nobody else in the public has any questions.
I didn't see any hands up there.
Okay, I see none. Sorry about that. I just wanted to double check. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not sure how the board wants to proceed. If they want to look at our plan changes first, and I don't know if we'd have time to get them in for the next meeting, or if the board wants to proceed, vote with conditions.
Well, the one thing I have, we only have 6 voting members here tonight, so you're really.
Frank, you know what? Well, if the attorney is willing to go with the 6 voters that are present, I think we could condition a motion of approval that would be obligate the applicant to provide, the changes that we've made. That would be part of a motion of approval.
Right. I don't think we need a new site plan or anything like that.
No, yeah, I think we can work around that if the attorney wants to go forward.
Yeah. So normally this is the point in the proceedings where I would give my very inspiring closing. I don't think you.
Inspire me.
Make it as short as the introduction.
Yeah. Make it.
I don't think you need to hear it, other than to say that I think you heard some compelling testimony from our witnesses. The real takeaway from here is that this is going to take an existing site that's been there, I think, since 1958, and just make it better, make it a lot better. It's going to be a lot more attractive. It's going to function a lot better, and it's going to improve some existing nonconformities. And McDonald's always wants to work with the municipality, and they're going to do that here. They're going to reduce the signage. They're going to make some of the other changes that we discussed to make some of the parking and the traffic flow improved. They're going to work with you on the landscaping and the lighting. So I think that this is a really good application, and I think it improves existing conditions. And I hope the board agrees and vote favorably.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lippert, you're prepared to go forward with 6 voting members?
Yeah, I understand the use variance implications of that, but yes, we are.
Maskey?
Yeah, I'd like to go over the conditions if I may, just so we're all on the same page on what's being agreed to or not agreed to. So first of all, the stacking question. So the applicant, I believe, or I shouldn't say I believe, Mr. Lippert, does the applicant agree to widen the bypass lane?
Yes, Alex, we had agreed to that, correct? Yes.
Okay. This wasn't discussed, but I'll throw it in. Was there any chance of moving the first stopping point further into the site to allow more backup stacking space?
It wasn't discussed, Mr. Maskey, that the geometry of the drive-through dictates certain standards and distances. So preference would be to keep the first order point in the location that's currently proposed.
Okay, so to enhance the buffer, which you're requesting a variance for, you agreed, it sounds like, to replace the chain link fence with a solid fence, either board on board or a solid vinyl, with a footnote, anything but white on the solid vinyl.
Anything but white, sure.
But you'll do a solid.
And Dave, I'm going to interrupt and say, I think the agreement was a solid wood fence,
Okay.
cedar or redwood.
Do I hear an agreement from the applicant on that one? Solid wood fence?
We can agree to that.
Okay. We talked about reducing the parking.
Can I ask you if I may? There was certainly discussion on the north side. There was also some discussion about, I think it means adding a fence on the east side. Before you get off the fence, I'd like to get that nailed down.
I like to sit on the fence for a bit, Come down on both sides.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
okay,
but yes,
sorry about that. It's getting late. There was some discussion of potentially reducing the parking. Is that your intention or not?
No,
I'm sorry, but have we addressed the question of whether fences to be added on the east side?
yes, we agreed to that.
Okay,
Okay.
are you leaving? Go ahead, Mark.
Again, I defer to Mr. Maskey on this, but over what distance? Across the back, if you will, the north side? I assume this would be the entire lot length.
Well, I would think at a minimum, the full length of the lot that abuts the residential properties.
On the east side.
Yeah, wherever there's a required buffer, let's put it that way. Which would be primarily,
That makes sense to me.
okay? You're enhancing the
And,
buffer.
you know what, just one clarifying, was that a 6-foot fence? I don't know that we discussed the height.
Good point, a 6-foot fence.
Okay, good.
All right. Is that a yes from Mr. Lippert? 6 foot?
Yes.
Okay. There was discussion of using pervious pavement in the employee parking spaces.
I think we can agree to that. Is that right, Alex?
Yes, we can do that, Mr. Maskey.
Okay. Discussion of upgrading the pedestrian circulation throughout the site and adding crosswalks at the 206 entrances.
The crosswalks at the 206 entrances, we can agree to. In terms of the pedestrian circulation through the site, we will, Mr. Maskey, I think we can work on ways that we can promote that. I would prefer to not lose a parking space and stripe it out, but
Right.
we will certainly work with you on that.
Okay, and that would be it's up to the board, but to the satisfaction of the planning department, if that's okay with the board.
We'd agree to that.
Okay, discussion of perhaps a dedicated dog walk area on the southbound side, the parking lot side of the building.
Yeah, we can agree on the west side of the building, in the, in the west parking lot area to put like a dog waste station.
Okay, reducing the wall signs, the 2 wall signs, I would say towards the back of the building on both sides, correct?
The 2 McDonald's word signs on the drive-through
Right.
facade and the non-drive-through facade.
You will provide a screen of some sort on the rear of the building on the roof, which was just discussed, to better screen the HVAC equipment.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
I believe that's it. Drew, was there any other conditions that you picked up on?
Okay, the lighting was going to be around 3,000 Kelvin rather than.
Correct.
Yes.
Drew, did you have anything?
No, I think you got them all, David.
Okay.
And some of the trees would be more evergreens than deciduous,
Yes.
particularly on the front.
Yep.
I believe that's, at least from my memory, that's all the conditions that were discussed.
And if it's appropriate, Frank, I would make a motion to approve this
First of all,
application.
let's close public before we go into.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, motion to close the public.
See, I'm the one who normally forgets that. Okay, motion to close public.
I made the motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public closed. Okay, go ahead. This board discussion and motion.
Just for discussion of the motion, I would make a motion to approve this with all of those waivers and variances requested, with all the conditions that Mark that Dave went over, and any of the others that were agreed to during this application.
Second.
Second.
In discussion, the only point I would ask is how long am I gonna have to go to Manville to get my hamburger and fries during this whole thing?
Perhaps they'll make a special delivery for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Goldman is indicating no.
No promises like that, but it doesn't take that long to build it, I'll tell you that.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, right? Okay, so Tina, roll call.
Oh, yeah, I have to do that. I can't see. I'm so tired, I can't see. Let me do this. Stop it. Miss Salili.
Yes, with a comment, please.
Oh,
I want to comment on the professionalism, the expertise, the cooperation given to all of the professionals from McDonald's, and especially to the resident and their willingness to help in any way possible to enhance. And I didn't pick up any negative criteria that you weren't willing to discuss and leave open. I felt the need to say that, so I thank you, and my vote is yes.
okay, I'm back. Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Miss Comfer,
Yes.
Miss Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes. Motion passes. That's when we can get digging.
Not only passes, but it meets the minimum 5 affirmative vote threshold.
Congratulations.
I just want to thank,
Congratulations.
I would like to thank the board and all its professionals. I know that you work very hard and you obviously spend a lot of time looking at this stuff very carefully. And we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Mr.
everyone.
Lippert, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to hear your inspiring summation because I don't recall that I've heard one in the last year or perhaps decade. But next time you'll promise.
Will do.
Okay, so our next meeting is going to be in 2 weeks on June 16th. And we need a motion to close this meeting.
Motion to close.
Second? Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good evening. Don't forget to turn off your video and audio.